Matthew.
Who are you people again? Okay. Oh, we're on the internet. Hi. Good morning or evening, or a couple of you I know are watching at 4:30 a.m., which kind of horrifies me. Welcome to the very first episode of the Wednesday Club. Yay!
Muppet flail, Muppet flail.
I can hear like four people in the background running computers.
Look at how tall I am.
You're adorable. We look like we're in class.
I'm gonna...
So, I wrote a little thing that I'll quickly go through. Every Wednesday of my adult life, new comic books hit the shelves, and those of us who can't wait run to the store and grab a stack of books every Wednesday. And more than even...
That was so dramatic.
That was all it took to level up? God, that was like the worst Toastmaster speech ever. Or was that the special sword?
I think we...
Someone subscribe.
We don't have a
Nice.
regular chat right now.
It's awesome.
Thank you to whoever that was.
So more than even the comic books, the things that made me a comic book fan were the people I met every Wednesday at the comic book store. Amazing people, some of them who went on to become comic writers and artists themselves. Funny, interesting, well-read people who really got me involved and got me into the books on a level that the books themselves honestly could never have done. Because comic books are hard. It is not easy. Mm-hmm. They are impenetrable. They have a long history, and it's easy to feel intimidated. Every time my friends talk about
Hard
wrestling,
to get into, not to love.
No, yeah, it's like wrestling. I know I have friends who love it, but I look at the size of it, and it's daunting. And as I got older and busier, I lost the free time to go every Wednesday to the comic book store, and it's one of those things that's really hurt me as a person. I really miss it terribly. To the point where I now decided that I had to build an elaborate bullshit mechanism and bamboozle legendary pictures to force me into a room to talk comics every week. So yeah, that's the big reveal. This is actually an elaborate plot to monetize my need for socialization and self-care. The cool thing for you guys is that me tricking Twitch into forcing my friends to hang out with me is that you guys get to hang out too. And it's going to be super fun. And we know that when you have the right community, comic books stop being intimidating and they become an easy thing to wade into. So we thought that we would make you our new comic book group, and we could be your comic book group even if you don't have a good comic book group.
Or even if you do.
Or even if you do.
We can be your second comic book.
We can be the ones you see on the internet. And, it'll be cool. No one has to know. So we'll be talking every week about cool artists, or we'll be showing some of our costumes that we've done, weird origin stories, fun things about comics, and we're going to definitely try and make it fun. And we'll be talking to you about making it easier and easier for those of you who can't read anymore, have never read before, to still enjoy comic books from a distance or as a new reader. So, welcome to the Wednesday Club. I'm Taliesin Jaffe. I have a $40 a week problem. To my left,
Amy Dallen. I have an undisclosed problem.
Is it coffee?
It's coffee, but it's also comics.
Oh. It is not undisclosed.
I'm just
You
saying
just disclosed it.
He put a number on his, and I get an employee
Undisclosed.
discount,
You get an
so we don't
employee
have to
discount.
talk about this.
Oh, nice. All right, now I get it. Took me a second to get around that sun. All right.
will have to be a Too Much Coffee Man episode
Yeah.
at some point.
Yeah, that would be
There
fun.
is a superhero, Too Much Coffee Man. He's the superhero we need every day.
You guys, many of you know me. I've been here talking comics on and off for a long time, and have spent a huge chunk of my life behind the actual counter of an actual comic book store. And getting new people into comics is my favorite thing. Followed closely by talking about it with other people who love comics. So I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad we're here. I'm really excited to do this.
And I've now spent a portion of my life being jealous of you that you get to work behind a counter at a comic book shop, because that's been something I've always wanted to do. So...
Now, well, we're actually calling the moderator of these. We're going to be very loosely moderating in moderation for the show, and we'll be calling it Working Counter. So every week we'll have someone introduce themselves as maybe like Matt will get to work counter one week, maybe we'll get to work counter.
Maybe
one
I will. Maybe if I'm good.
if you're good, if you're good, if
finally
you
feel
finished
like
all
it.
your Signal Boost homework.
Oh, all that sweet Signal Boost homework.
And yeah, we've got.
And you
a chat
today
on
are
it.
working counter. I
I'm today
believe.
working counter because I've been the one working on the PDFs all week for this thing.
I'm Matt Key, and I have a Marvel show that I do on AfterBuzz, and I work at Screen Junkies doing their news segments, and Yeah, I love comic books too. I always have.
Your shirt is so good.
Isn't it? It's such a sweet shirt.
We kind of it's an Avengers shirt for those who it's on the Facebook live feed.
Yeah, if you want to go watch the video there, but we were actually trying to discuss on the Facebook live feed which era Avengers are these. I'm saying like late 70s.
It's a mix because I think that's a Kirby cap.
This does look like a Kirby cap, but this is not a Kirby Iron Man.
No.
I don't think this is a Kirby Black Panther.
That's a Beast. Is that a Black Panther? Or
No,
Beast?
this is Black Panther.
Black Panther for sure.
But this Hawkeye is like this is the Hawkeye that's in that one Avengers issue with Ant-Man on the arrow. This is him.
Your shirt is already like a
Avengers
deeper cut than the show is ever going to have.
Yeah. What's that?
It's like Avengers Solo era.
Yeah.
There's a Falcon in there.
I bought this at a store called Box Lunch. It's in the Glendale Galleria, but I know you can buy it online, and like they give a portion of their proceeds to a child in who's hungry. So that's
freaking awesome.
That's awesome.
really cool. It's really, really cool.
So how did you get into comics? Like let's talk about what were a couple of the first books you read and who gave them to you. Where did you go?
Are we doing show and tell, or are we just talking first?
Let's see what happens organically, and let's see if
Very well.
The chat has an opinion.
Do you want to go first?
Because I'll talk for like 3 hours.
I'm holding the hammer the hammer of Cool Dorito Ranch flavor, and the hammer wants to hear your truth.
My truth. Okay.
Tell your truth to the hammer.
So, hello internet. I got into comics. I started watching the X-Men cartoon, and that was probably my biggest gateway. And then, but my parents, and this is, no offense to them, they didn't know any better at the time, but they were very conservative and Christian in their beliefs. They full on went for the whole like Wortham, like comics are bad.
How deep into your origin story are we going here? Are we going to go like?
This is like the very, very beginning.
Well, I mean, like, are we going into like your career goals and your birthday stuff, or are we holding that off for another day?
No, that's a whole
other thing. We'll get into. We'll remember.
I am gonna pause though. We promised that we would try to catch ourselves when we do this. That whole Wortham thing.
Oh, yeah.
Will be the subject of a future show, most likely.
In fact, our logo is based on that whole Wortham thing.
Indeed, there was a gentleman in the 50s who very famously argued that comic books were full of degenerate, filthy material that was warping the minds of America's youth, because the 50s were all about fearing for America's youth. But comics took it on the chin pretty hard. A lot of people listened to him.
What was the name of that pamphlet? It was
Seduction of the Innocent.
Thank you. Seduction of the Innocent.
Famous book published by Dr. Frederick Wortham. Because there was not at the time there wasn't really a concept of like lots of different storytelling can happen in comics. It's a whole thing that we won't get into right now. But the sort of moral panic side of it is what you are referring to, with parents who are sort of like, I don't know about comics.
There was about a 20 to 25 year span where there was a moral panic, and that's why you have like really weird characters in the 50s, like Superman 50s and the DC books.
We'll do a whole DC run.
Yeah, there's
DC.
We'll talk about it. And the
That'll be an
result of
episode.
the Wortham Panic was the Comics Code Authority, a self-imposed, like Hays Code-esque governing body that comics would run themselves through, and they would get little stickers.
Do we have that?
Oh, I have it. It's on almost everything classic.
Until 2011-ish. Companies sort of slowly started dropping them, but from 1954, I'm going to say, until...
Despite a demonic Superman, there it is right there.
Approved by the comics.
That's right there.
For 2011, it stopped.
They one company dropped it before the other. I think as of 2011, officially everybody had dropped the code, and now they're using their own rating services. But this was your story. I just wanted to jump in.
Good jump.
I would also like to point out that it was the anti-drug issue of Spider-Man that challenged the entire industry.
Yep.
Because they're like, wait, Stan Lee just ran without it, and people still bought it? We can do that?
Literally next week, because we're doing the mental health issue.
Oh, nice. All right,
week.
well.
He was freaking partnered with the government on that one, the whatever health
Yeah,
department.
like some health department thing.
Next week.
Matt Key. Back to Matt Key.
Back to your origin.
So I wanted to read comics, but my mom and dad were a little nervous about them. So I was over at my friend Derek's house one night, and after school, and he had copies of the X-Men comics, and I noticed that Nightcrawler was talking about God and Jesus and stuff like that with Wolverine. And I was like, can I borrow this comic? And he was like, yeah, take it home, it's fine. So I brought it home, showed my mom and dad, and they were like, well,
since there's a Catholic in the X-Men.
Yeah, they were like, we'll let you read the X-Men, which is, you'll notice Cable, X-Man, one of my, and I noted in the Facebook Live chat, Cable was one of my very first comic book that I ever owned. I got it for my birthday from my dad. So yeah, I like, that's why I'm such a Marvel guy, is because that's what I was allowed to read, and I just never got on the DC train as much as I've tried. So, but yeah, that's my basic origin story. And then I discovered Doctor Strange. Ooh.
Yeah, that's not Nightcrawler.
That's definitely not Nightcrawler. I brought some of my first Doctor Strange comics today too.
I'm so struck by the fact that like the decision of who created Nightcrawler, Len Wein, and then Claremont took over, right?
Len Wein, Giant Size X-Men #1, 1970.
But their decision to sort of positively represent a person of faith in a book which is explicitly devoted to like diversity and all of this, like it's complete sort of awesome lefty propaganda. But
it is
like
exceptionally
their decision,
progressive,
it's so cool that was an actual door in. I know Nightcrawler is tremendously important to a lot of religious readers because they like have a character with beliefs.
But then like my mom and dad realized like, oh, you know what, we may have been wrong about this. Our son is fine. Like he's great and he's reading a lot more than he used to, which
Have you asked them if they made the right call?
No, I've never had the discussion with them. So if they're watching now, I don't know. Maybe
they're like, yes, my son's on the internet. I'm so proud.
So yeah, I mean that's my. I don't know if there's anything else to the origin story.
That's a good run. That's a good run.
Yeah.
Down the table.
Also X-Men the Animated Series, the early '90s cartoon.
Yeah, I think that's probably true for a lot of our generation.
Yeah, it's. That was the gateway drug for me. I had like my aunt had Asterix in German, which is weird because it's a French comic, but they had been stationed abroad, and like I would go rifling through cabinets at my aunt's house and found a ton of Asterix comics, which were fantastic. And Archies are just like around; they just get into your brain. But when I think I was in a store in the mall in Sacramento looking for Star Trek stuff, and there was a wall of comics, and the two issues that jumped out at me, I bought one of X-Men like 36 or 37 from the renumbered 90s one, X-Babies.
Nice.
Whoa!
Wow.
Next week, because X-Men, but a little.
But next to it was a comic with one character I recognized and a bunch of people I had no idea who they were. And I wish I had it here with me. A bunch of the stuff is at my mom's house. Generation X #5.
Whoa!
Yeah.
It's got the big apple on the cover and Jubilee right on top. And it was the art of Chris Bachalo, who I still adore. But like, but I didn't know what I was looking at, but I knew I had to have it. So I took those two comics home, and there was a bit of a gap before I became like an every Wednesday person because I had to sort of find my people to start going into the shop. But like those were the two books that I took home and just started buying like whatever I found wherever I went until I had like comic book like I got not long after that, I think Sailor Moon hit the airwaves. When I arrived in comic book stores, it was like just alternating manga and X-Men. And there are like many phases later that are sort of interesting. Like when I got broke and got really into webcomics, which is paying off now because all those people are running comics now, which is fantastic. Kate Beaton and Ryan North and David Mackey and like all these wonderful talents. And graphic novels became a thing, which is amazing.
I had no idea that Ryan North had done a webcomic until you mentioned it in a Single Boost episode. And then I was like, no wonder that guy's so good at Squirrel Girl.
He's been professionally funny for like 15 years.
Can I tell you guys a story from the Eisners last year?
Yeah.
So wait again.
Is it about
deep cut? The Eisners are the comic book awards named after a famous comic book writer, Will Eisner, who wrote The Spirit, which will be again have its own episode. But these are my little footnotes.
Somebody track every time we claim we're going to have an episode on something, and then tweet at us and be like, "Where's my Spirit episode?"
Actually, please do tweet at us because I'll put it on the list. We have a list.
Yeah, we have a going list. So John Barrowman was the host last year.
I know this story.
And I was working for Comic-Con HQ at the time, and they asked me to write his jokes for him for the Eisners. And he, like, just watching all of this stuff, that like all of his YouTube stuff, I was like, this guy loves cosplay. Like, we should have him cosplay for every single time he's on stage. And he only went out 4 times. He elected to do 3 times, which broke my heart because I really wanted him to open the show as Dazzler and sing a song about comics. But he felt like that might be a little too much, too fast, and I understand and don't disagree. John Barrowman, by the way, exceptionally nice man, very giving, very loving man, very open about his life. You could ask him anything, he'll be like, "Well, here's the answer."
Super sweet,
very nice man. I got to suggest to him the costumes because he was like, I don't know who to dress as. So I went and looked at what the categories were when he was going on stage and made suggestions. He got to introduce Ryan North and
Erica Henderson.
Erica Henderson, thank you. I was like, Erica.
I had no idea he was involved. This is
Oh no, this is and you guys are about to get some great Google foo. Like you're gonna look this up and you're gonna laugh your butt off.
So I got to the other ones that he did Zap Brannigan because he introduced Matt Groening to the stage.
One of the highlights of my life, watching that dude walk out. Thank you.
He loved
no
it.
idea
He
this
loved
was
that.
you.
Tiny shorts.
This is all me. He elected to do Harley Quinn. I can't remember why I suggested Harley Quinn, but I was very adamant in saying choose the Paul Dini. Harley Quinn. Do not do like any of the more recent stuff.
Classic animated.
Classic animated, original Harley. That's what the fans will enjoy the most.
Tasteful Harley.
Tasteful
Harley.
Tasteful Harley. Yeah.
No shade on people who enjoy the more recent incarnations,
absolutely
but
not.
I am
Absolutely
glad he
not.
went with that.
I like calling it the Tasteful Harley because by the way, it's tasteful.
Tasteful, elegant. But the one that I am the most proud of, and I did this for my lovely wife, who is a giant Squirrel Girl fan. I said he had to be Squirrel Girl, and I kind of didn't let him have any other options in the emails I sent him. I was like, you could also do these things, but you're gonna be Squirrel Girl is basically kind of what I said. And he was like, absolutely, yeah, I really like the Squirrel Girl. So Catherine Elhofer went and made them.
Elhofer did those?
Elhofer did those, yeah. I was playing with her on Twitter.
She's a wonderful nerd designer
Yeah,
who
she's
I've
amazing.
only just discovered and am madly in love with.
We'll put a link up at some point.
Yeah.
We'll remember.
But she was tweeting at me like, I hate you so much for the Harley Quinn. That's such a hard cowl to make. And I was like, I'm sorry. I thought it'd be easy. I thought the Squirrel Girl one would be hard. She's like, that's the easiest one. I was like, I'm not a costumer. So bring it. Sorry, I'm making the story so long. So he goes running on stage as Squirrel Girl, and he's excited. He's showing off his tail.
Giant
tail. Giant, awesome tail. Go Google it. John Barrowman, Squirrel Girl. And then Ryan North and Erica Henderson were backstage, and they both had this face. and I turned and looked, and I was like, is that cool? And they were like, yeah, that's amazing. And I was like, is he doing justice to your property? And Erica was like, this might be the greatest moment of my life. And I was like, I suggested that. And they were like, thank you so much. I don't remember what I'm supposed to do. Like, all of a sudden their name was called. And they were like, I don't remember what to do. What is going on? Like, they went on, and of course they presented, and they killed it, and they were great. But it was great.
They were fantastic, but there was an element of like what just happened that read from the stage.
Yeah.
Which was amazing because we were all in that like this sort of delirious state of like, what?
Yeah.
It's a beautiful. I Googled the costume, Google John Barrowman Squirrel Girl, and you will not be disappointed.
I was really proud of that. Like, some of the jokes didn't fall as well as I wanted them to, but the
Well,
costumes all played really well.
His sense of humor and the Squirrel Girl persona are kind of a mismatch,
Yeah.
but they're one of those things where you're like, I love both of these flavors. You're fantastic, and I'm so glad this is happening. So that was how it was for the audience.
Is she going to get her own episode, or are we going to tie her into Great Lakes? That's always kind of the interesting question.
I think we could do a few different episodes on it.
We could also just do a whole thing on animal-based superheroes and villains
Grant Morrison
featuring
on
Squirrel
that.
Girl. Oh wow! No, Grant may be its own. That's boy.
No,
Well,
Grant
there will
is
be
definitely
so
his
much.
own.
That's his own.
Grant Morrison is a comic book writer who I'm pretty sure is inside Taliesin's DNA.
There's some terrible stories that will eventually be revealed.
I don't know the
some that
stories.
won't.
This is going to be the best part of the show.
Yeah. Taliesin story time. Yeah.
Oh dear!
You should get your own, like,
There's a list of
header
ones
for
that
that.
don't go on the internet and some that do.
There's no cameras here.
Grant may remember a couple of them. I hope he doesn't.
I should note, some of you are already on this, but if you have questions for us, we're not doing a regular chat on this show right now.
But you can totally interrupt with a good question.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to
tell the voice to shut it.
Brittany Wallach says Squirrel Girl, the best Marvel hero.
Oh,
in
that's
chat,
my wife.
by the way.
My beautiful, lovely wife.
So,
But yeah, if you have questions for us, Ryan off screen is sending them to me, and we have a lot of questions. I'm excited. Let me know when is a good time.
Do you want to give your origin, and then we'll go to some questions?
I'll do my origin, which is kind of weird because I due to a very weird childhood, because I was a child actor, so I didn't actually like know any kids growing up. I didn't really meet any. All the kids I knew were working professionals until about the age of 13.
Are you allowed to tell the movie that you were in?
Oh yeah, no, it's kind of common. The big one that most people know is Mr. Mom. I was the kid with the whoopee. I was Kenny in Mr. Mom. That's That's where most of the weird internet memes come from. Although there's a whole list of weird. I worked pretty solidly between the ages of 6 months old till about 13. I didn't really have a ton of friends, and I didn't really go to school. But like it was kind of, it's a weird way to grow up, and it's very hard to articulate really quickly what that's like. But I liked the notion of superheroes, but I'd never read a comic book when I was a kid. I was one of the, much like a lot of people today have the osmosis of like they know the X-Men because of the X-Men movies, but they've never picked up a book. I knew enough about Superman that I would sometimes wear Superman underoos and put a suit on it and tell people my name was Clark because I thought it was cool, but not because I'd ever read a Superman comic in my life. But I'd seen the Donner film and was like really, I was into the notion of superheroes. I thought they were super cool, but a couple times I went to like summer camps as a kid, and other kids would explain comic book characters to me. Like my image of Wolverine until I was like 15 and read a comic book was like a G.I. Joe tunnel rat with camo make. Like I have this whole Marvel universe in my head that was all kids at camp telling me about the books I had never read, and my imagination is genuinely so much less interesting than what the truth was.
No, but that's
because it was
amazing.
all so like my Wolverine looks like Tunnel Rat from G.I. Joe,
Oh my God,
but with
that's
awesome. blades attached in like 2 points and like to the 2 spikes, and like I had some weird stuff in my head. Sentinels were very weird. Submariner was he was the submariner in my head until I was like 25.
For some people, he still is.
Submariner.
Yeah. Submariner.
He eats sandwich.
It's a submarine. Makes a certain amount of sense.
So finally, one of my mom's boyfriends, because who was trying to connect with me, I was a weird child and making them kind of crazy, bought me a bunch of comic books because he thought I'd like them. But he was a television producer, so he went to a comic book store in LA called Heidi Ho Comics, which is very, at the time, was one of those places producers went to like look to buy things to turn into movies. And he bought me, like a 12-year-old kid, he bought me like some like V for Vendetta.
Oh no!
Wasteland. If you like, Wasteland's super weird. We'll do a whole thing about it. It's like a book no one knows. That's like really weird, like Swamp Thing.
Yeah, I don't know
Tales of
much
the
about it.
Crypt weird.
Who published Wasteland?
DC pre-Vertigo. Like I once went to a Vertigo panel. I was like, when are you going to reprint Wasteland? And like I watched like Grant Morrison go, and what's her name? The editor at Vertigo. Karen was like, dude, what? Really? Really, dude? What? Wow. No, just go. I was like,
You got kicked out.
she didn't. She was like, yeah, I know, but no, dude. It's like, wow.
Wow.
And she was cool, but so like I had these very weird horror books that he brought me that were not age appropriate. Vampirella or Vampirella. I can never remember which one it is. And like stuff that a kid should not have. But I was a weird kid anyway. And then one day I was walking through Melrose, which is where all the goth kids hung out at the time. And this was back when Golden Apple was there. And there's this dude I found out later, his name was Bill Leibowitz, who was this big, hulking, bald, looked like a retired mobster. Like there's no better way to describe him other than like he looks like he's like performed several barehanded strangulations in his life. Like I hope his kid is watching. Bless.
Like with the Bratva? Like,
no, like
kind of
just well, he's kind of like Kingpin. Like he's a thick, big guy in a Hawaiian shirt with shades on and this grimace and a yo-yo, and he's sitting in a plastic chair in front of the comic book store, and he's got a yo-yo and he's playing with the yo-yo, and he just barks at me. He's like, "Kid, come here," and I like, oh God, I don't know what I did. I'm in such trouble, and out of nowhere he grabs me, cuts me in front of a line. There's this line for a signing at the store, and literally cuts me in front of the line, hands me a bunch of free comic books, and says, "Go get it signed." And it's the Alice Cooper book that Neil Gaiman. I hope I always fuck it up.
I think it's Gaiman.
Gaiman. Neil was there. I'm trying to remember what's the name of the cover artist who does all the crazy stuff. The Sandman covers. This is what you get is no proper nouns.
Oh, for Pete's sake!
These insane people.
Dave
McKean and Alice Cooper signed the first comic book I ever buy, and like I cut the line, and he's just like, "Here's some books. Go read some comic books. Now get out of here." And
Whoa.
Between that and another comic book store in Westwood with this guy, guy Steve Houston, who's this big Brit, angry, muscle-bound Brit with a Hulk tattoo on his arm, who like literally like he was that guy who would like kids would come in and says, "No, you're not buying Spawn. Here's a Kirby Avengers. Now take it and get out of here. God, you kids are just great. No, this shit. You're gonna read this."
Wow.
And like a lifelong of when like these two guys just like, and now Bill, bless him, has gone on, but his kid Ryan and his wife Sharon are still running. We're running the store, the Golden Apple still, and Ryan's still there.
Yeah, they moved. They moved
down the street.
It has been pointed out by chat that it is still on Melrose, just a different
location. Yeah, I remember when I first moved here.
The other bad end of Melrose.
I remember when I first moved here, I had heard about Golden Apple, and it was one of the first pilgrimages I made in Los Angeles in like 2002. And it was still at that other location. And a couple years later, I was like, I haven't been back to Golden Apple. I've got to go back down to Hollywood and go to Golden Apple. And it had moved. I was like, oh.
It was the Wednesday night that this Wednesday night is for, because the people who were at that store on Wednesdays when I was a kid were writers and artists and like, I mean, it's LA, everyone's working, and like those guys have gone on to do some great stuff, and even some of those guys who haven't gone on to do with great stuff were writing great stuff that I'm just so privileged that they like let me read. And actors would come in there, writers, directors. I mean, this is like you would hang out long enough, and everyone made their way. Like everyone from like just Samuel L. Jackson would come in every now and then. Joss Whedon would come in. Like all these weird, interesting people. I don't want to like, but like it was like one of those things where just people would come in, and you would be like, "You're buying books," and
great
like,
discovery. A lot of Hollywood people are nerds because they love stories. That's like
that's all comics really are. Is they're sequential art stories, like like they're storyboards.
We're totally gonna do an episode on how to read a comic book.
Yeah, we should because
that's a thing. I know people have a thing and they don't understand, like learning what all the little weird idiosyncrasies
and like how to read the frame and how to navigate it with your eye.
So, and I will also say, Golden Apple is still there, and since I have to give love because a lot of my classic books still come from Steve Houston, who now works at a place called Torpedo Comics in Las Vegas.
Nice.
That I see him at cons still.
Nice.
30 years later, and I'm like buying books from him. Like he still knows he knows exactly what I like. It's great.
That's so awesome.
A lot of
I've got a Joss Whedon story to tell at some point. We don't need to do it today because
we'll do an X-Men. We'll do or a Buffy and an X-Men.
Yeah.
But that's my story.
A lot of my early comics communities were actually online, which is sort of nice for this because we moved a lot, like not like super every 6 months, but just enough that it was sort of disruptive. And like it was one of my first gaming experiences actually was like an email sim that I played in for like 2 years in high school, where we all played the imaginary children of future X-Men.
Can't believe you just said email sim. No, and then now that's deep.
Come on, it's in a lot of our blood, right?
Is there anything fun popping up, or should we like do some show and
tell? Are you ready for some questions? Because we have a lot of
questions.
questions.
Let's do it.
Y'all have been amazing.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for joining us. This is exciting and fun.
JJ Dane says, "I'm team good comics, no matter from where." We all are. And then part of the fun of this is that we know a lot of people don't have a friendly local game store, which is why amazing digital alternatives finally exist, which is awesome. And you can be a club with us.
Oh yeah, and there's stores that have like literally chased me away. Where like you go in there and like this is not the comic book store I want to be in, or like the vibe's not right, and you're like not digging it, and then you find the one that feels like home, and it's just so great.
There, unfortunately, are bad experiences that people have had in comics. It's a very real thing. We are all working to change it. There are lists online of like, there was a great Tumblr that was running of friendly comic book stores, and I don't remember what it was. But you can also look up the listing of ones that have Valkyries, which is an organization of female retailers, and it helps.
I'll say that the very first time I tried to go into a comic book store when I was a kid, I left very unhappy because the guy working counter spent the entire time hitting on my mom.
Oof.
Like greasy trying to sleep with my mom. I'm like, oh my god, and she was like, this is really awful. And yeah, I was like, nope.
That's
nope.
the worst I've ever
No.
Weird.
It was so awful. It was so gross.
What store was that?
I'm not going to say. Because everybody involved is so long gone, it would not be fair.
Sure.
So I'm not going to, like, whoever is there is paying his karmic debt somewhere in the world.
That's
If for no other reason than my mom was hot and she was like, no. So that's good. Thank you, Mom, for having taste. Bless you.
I'm gonna start. Okay, we have a lot of variations on
Cool.
recommendation questions, which is fantastic. I am gonna start by addressing the fact that Bianca Texas asks, it sounds like everyone is Team Marvel. Anyone Team DC?
Well, I'll say DC lost me for a while. Definitely
With
there was
New 52?
Even I'll say even earlier than that. That will be a more serious discussion for another day of what went wrong but like I'm back, so I'm back to Team DC. I'm reading DC again. Part of the reasons for this show is because I'm now like really enthusiastic about DC again. I've always been a fan of DC. I read everything. I had a $40 a week habit. I read everything. We'll be doing indies too.
Yep.
But yeah, you don't have to be one or the other. They're both good in different ways.
Yeah.
And they both have their strengths. And I feel like the movies right now are such a disservice to those characters that I'm excited to get people excited about DC characters.
The DC movies. Like, you don't mean comic book movies in general.
No.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like DC has not been doing a very good service of figuring out what makes their characters tick on screen.
Yeah.
And except for maybe Lego Batman, but that's all.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
We should do a whole show just on Lego Batman.
We may go deep there.
I do want to say also, like, I know you, Marvel was our way in, but I know I got to Vertigo pretty quickly, from there to indies and everything, and then ever since I've worked in the shop, I've made a concentrated effort to we all watched Batman the Animated Series, so there's versions of these characters imprinted on us, but I love DC as well. I just usually had to Marvel because that was what I found first.
And the Marvel of my youth was not, I was loving it, but I've gone back and read, I was Bad Fantastic Four, Spider-Man clone style, foil cover, too many pouches. Every costume had to be covered in pouches. They never opened those pouches. I don't even know if they necessarily knew what was in those pouches. Gum? I don't know.
Bullet casings.
Marvel had a bad time and DC had a renaissance, and they don't necessarily have to, but but it's, man, when any book is good, it's great.
Yeah. And there's good stuff everywhere. I saw someone in chat ask if we could list off all of the publishers, and the great news is that's impossible.
No.
Yeah.
There are hundreds and new ones every day. There are a small handful of sort of large scale publishers, and we'll try to get into as many of them as possible.
The big 5 or 3 or 2.
But if you include
Marvel,
especially
DC, and Image,
webcomics are
images,
comics.
yeah.
And there's thousands of them.
Yeah.
And we're not going to do a ton of recommendations because this show, we don't want to overwhelm you guys. Because, I could list off 2,000 books you should read.
Which is 5 of these questions.
And you guys are going to die. So what we're going to do...
Don't kill our fans.
Yeah, not yet. We want to, soften the meat so it's tender. Every week we're just going to try and keep it to talk about a book for a little bit and, kind of give you guys something that you might want to delve into. We're going to pay attention to what's on sale on Comixology. So if there's a $4 sale on something, that might be this week's talk so that you can get into it cheap.
Comixology is the premier purveyor of digital comics, and they run very frequent, excellent sales where they'll do huge bundles of things or stuff for 99 cents. And we're going to try to track that because it's the easiest way to get everybody on the same page.
Yeah, and not have an official comic book reading club, but an unofficial hey, we're going to be talking about next week, and this graphic is only $5
Yeah,
on
you
Comixology.
can either enjoy us the way I enjoyed the X-Men when I was a kid, going these costumes in my head are weird, or you can join in and actually have some of the books in your head. Either way, I really enjoyed listening to the kids talk about the X-Men when I thought they looked like G.I.
But
Joe.
I think it's important to acknowledge that you keep calling it a $40 a week habit. At one point, I had a $60 to $100 a week habit. It's just not sustainable.
No,
in some ways. So it is important to acknowledge this. It's not an expensive habit, but the more and more, the deeper and deeper and deeper you get, it can become that.
And I'll admit, actually, I cheated at some point because when the Japanese comics became a big thing, and that's when we got a big influx of female readers, was because of Japanese comics and manga. None of the Western American comic book stores knew anything about them. I was a very early anime nut, super, super early. Oh my God, Jessica Drew, really?
What, Jessica Drew?
Are you
Jessica Drew's
Jessica
in here?
Drew?
Jessica, no, actually is a friend of ours named Jessica Drew.
I'm on the wrong track.
Who's,
Are we
I
sure
think
that's
I still
Jessica
have
Drew?
that. Jessica, do I still have one of your comic books that's really a hardcover and giant? And okay, never mind. That's too easy, weird a trivia. It's probably actually Jessica. Yes, it's Purple Hearts, Jessica Drip. Hi, Jess. Great friend of the show, great friend of Critical Role, helped with costumes, is amazing, super cool comic nerd of all trades.
I am just going to shout out Winter Soldier 616. Your question just scrolled off the screen, but it was, you said when you told someone that, paraphrasing as best I can, when I was talking comics, there we go, it's on this one, with someone, and told them that the Winter Soldier is my favorite, I got told that I only like him because I'm a woman. Have you guys ever been judged for liking a certain character over others?
Yeah.
It happens. I'm so sorry. It happens more to women. And like that jerk face of whatever gender, but let's take a guess. Don't let them stop you. You love what you love for whatever your reasons are. I don't care why, and it doesn't matter why. And I'm so sorry that happened to you. Welcome to comics.
No.
I
That
love your
makes
name.
very
Winter
little
Soldier
sense
616.
that like that would be in a, like just
People
because
who
you're
are-
like.
Well,
They think
it's
they're
also
new fans, and they think that doesn't count, and they think it's because someone's cute, and there's just layers and layers, and
man.
it's upsetting.
makes-
it's one of those rules that we try and enforce really strongly, which is that no matter what it is, it's somebody's favorite, and so even when we talk smack about a character or a story arc, we definitely try and breathe deep and remember that it is somebody's favorite. We may poke fun at it, we may rib it. I was wearing a really ridiculous shirt last night on Talks Machina, and I enjoyed my ribbing.
What was it?
It was a bright green. I'll pull up a picture later. It's on the website. I was very pleased with my ridiculous shirt. We may have to drag Jess on the show at some point. That could be fun.
Oh, she would be great.
If you're not bored. If you're
I get
not
made
busy.
fun of for Doctor Strange until the
yeah.
movie came out. Like everyone would be like, "That's your favorite character?" Like what? Yeah. So I get be made fun of for like what you love.
Yeah, well,
And call us out on it, but when we say stuff like this character is like Fables brought in a lot of female readers, or Sandman brought in a lot of female readers, it's always important to me to note there were already women there. Works that notably are more welcoming and friendly are always worth celebrating, but I'm never going to be like, oh, you're a woman and you like Sandman. I am a
Of
woman and I
course.
love
Yeah.
Sandman.
Yeah.
Like, and, fight me. So it's
a thing.
These broad patterns can be sort of weaponized, and now I'm on a ranty thing.
No,
I'm
it's good,
sorry,
it's good.
guys. Let's bring me in.
No, but like, so manga had just come out. None of the comic book stores knew, and I had to deal with Bill for a while, which was that I did all their manga buying. In return, I got free books every week. So I survived for years of actor money. And if anybody there is, no, that's not a lot of money. I survived for years on a comic book habit where I would just get my pile for free because I would go through the comic book catalog and narc all the good manga that everybody wanted. And in return, he'd give me free books and like invite me to events, and like he treated me like that man was a saint. He
That's
was so sweet.
fantastic.
And that whole family is just fabulous. And like I got to do all sorts of fun stuff because of those guys. And I tried to help them with the manga when it was kind of a thing. And then I would pass my books off to my little brother when I was done with them. When I realized that collecting comics was weird and I probably shouldn't put them in plastic bags.
It's okay if you
Like
do.
some sort of Twin Peaks villain. Instead, wrapped in plastic. I know. But so yeah, there was that. That's how the $40 a week worked.
That's amazing.
Wow.
Well, and
I
then
cheated.
someone like you was probably responsible for the shop that I was going to when I was buying both. It was all like X-Men and Rumiko Takahashi. Like that was,
Those Viz release Rumik World shorts with the horror shorts that.
I was just getting Ranma and Meisen and Koku.
I have the live action film if you ever. Quick note on Rumiko Takahashi, one of the richest women in Japan, one of like the 5 richest women in Japan. She got that way from comic books, where Japanese comic books are huge. She's been writing comic books since the 70s. She won a contest as a young woman. Got to tutor under a very famous manga creator who created Crying Freeman, and became one of the most popular comic book creators in the world. Writing things that you might know: Inuyasha, Ranma One
Right,
Half,
yeah.
Urusei Yatsura, which ran forever. Is everything that they've been made into TV series. They've been made into animated series, live action films. It's an empire.
Absolute blockbuster stuff, and some of the stuff that hooked me on comics.
Famous
for
for
life.
her comedy and amazing horror, and she did a bunch of horror one-shots when I was a kid that just freaked me out. The Hungry Ghosts. Oh, that's great stuff. We'll get to it.
And then Meisane Koku, which was a romantic comedy set at an apartment building with a bunch of wacky neighbors, which was a thing that as a kid I was like, I didn't know you could do this. I didn't know there could be comics like this. And like the rest of like discovering Strangers in Paradise, discovering all my slice of life stuff, it probably all started there.
I lived in a maison when I was in Japan, and in like literally a house that looked just like, I nerded so hard when I'm like, it's just like Meisane Koku, and I've got the little wooden sliding door, and
You
I love
actually
it.
lived in Japan?
Yeah, I worked in Japan. I was for a couple of years. I did weird. That will be a whole part of the manga episode. Is my weird Japanese adventures are kind of strange.
Dude, amazing.
That's a whole
I'm
thing.
extremely rusty, but I studied it in college, so I studied abroad there.
Language skills.
Oh,
That's where we went on our honeymoon, was Tokyo.
I know.
it's amazing.
Hi,
Right,
everybody.
So many questions.
We'll have your wife on as well.
Do you want questions now or later?
Let's do some questions. We'll do a couple questions, and we'll do some show and tell, and then you know what? We're gonna go a little long, maybe, and we'll do more questions. If you guys just want to hang out, once they give the sign, I think Sack seemed like down with the notion of just letting us keep talking.
There's so much good stuff going on.
Yeah, like the recommendations,
Thank you,
like next week.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what we're getting into next week, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I can address this one very easily, but the first question popped in is from Tico Bell, and it's a leading question, and the question is, how hyped are you for the America Chavez solo title?
Is that high? Is that...
You're a tall person, make it higher,
It's
yeah.
so high
make it
that,
higher.
that she has to punch a
It's-
hole in
it's
reality,
so
leaving a big
You're
star-shaped
gonna
scar.
Superboy Prime this.
Moving into she is like the better version of Superboy Prime. Wow, that's another deep cut. I
Right.
apologize. It's
Shoot,
just hard
yes,
not to
I
do.
went
Superboy
wrong.
Prime.
is a weird embarrassment of DC that I love. We'll get
Everyone
into.
has their weird moments. It's fantastic. The consequence of having a universe that you try to sustain over 70 years is you get some
magical.
weird moments.
Superboy Prime can punch time and break it he can literally punch the concept of time and make it cry and bleed. America Chavez can kick the concept of time and open up portals to other dimensions by kicking reality so hard.
Yeah, it was
that
reality.
just
It's not
leaves.
time, though.
No,
It's
it's
like
reality.
You can punch through to like other dimensions.
Which I don't know how that works anymore since there's no more dimensions anymore. That's going to be interesting.
There's still dimensions.
Are there in
Still
Marvel?
dimensions.
I mean, Spider-Gwen's still in her own universe.
Is she? Okay,
They didn't
so-
really collapse everything.
I'm
They
a little-
just ended the Ultimate Universe. Oh, we're going too deep again.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, they just combined 1610 and 616, right?
Mostly. Some of the others I think are gone as well.
Quick, guys, what is 1610 plus 616? And the answer is current continuity.
Yeah.
Thank you for trying.
You got me. You got me. I
Boom.
was like, what?
What?
is
Yeah,
that?
no,
Should
I was
I
such a
be
jerk.
doing the math?
We'll actually take a picture of the passport from the Young Avengers where they have all the passport stamps from the different multiverses that they've been to on their road trip, including the movie
didn't
universe.
remember that.
It's so cool. Yeah, we'll show that later.
One of my
Avengers was
favorite
such a good
comics
one.
in all of its different runs, the Heinberg Chung Young Avengers, and then of course I think we've discovered we have in common a huge problem. Thy name is Gillen McKelvey.
Oh, it's so bad.
There's a creative team, Kieran Gillen and Jamie McKelvey, and so
Marisha
they
and
have
I
our number.
tried to actually we went to a Comic-Con, we found their table and cut the line because we had like an escort, and we desperately tried to do the please come to the Geek and Sundry party because we really want to meet you and really cool, and if you're ever you can call us. Bye, we love you. And like ran both of us, like you can imagine, Marisha and I
So
just
embarrassed.
and running away. Like, do you think they'll come? I don't know.
No, probably not.
No, and they didn't.
I've
come.
met them.
No.
They're so nice. Were you at the panel where Kieran brought his mom on?
No.
There was okay.
We
Yep.
love you if you're watching. I know you're not watching, but we love you.
But maybe you are.
We love you. We love you.
Can't rule it out.
Come
What time- It's
dancing.
like the middle of the night in Britain.
We have great clubs.
Um,
So we've got a couple British people watching, I think.
yes, British folks. What?
Brits, what time is it? Someone said
What time
I
is
was
it?
up at and they were like, oh, it's gonna be at like 4:30 a.m. or something. I'm like, I feel so bad. Is this? I will find out if this is gonna be on YouTube. I think it will.
Oh, and this question, which I've seen come up a couple times.
Yeah, guys.
Luna Sapphire has
Bless you, Jody.
asked, can we get an episode talking about disabled superhumans?
Ooh.
That is a good one.
Well, we're
This
doing.
is a subject we may want to bring in some expert help with.
Oh no, I definitely. I mean, like we're doing the
we'd love
mental
to talk
health
about.
mental health superheroes next week, which we'll get to. But I'm totally down for that. That would be super. I mean, like Captain with the baby Marvel, not Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel Jr. Technically, Oracle. There's a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
There's
All right.
The history is not always
Silhouette.
a good or happy one in terms of representation of heroes with disabilities, but like it's a super important topic. So if we can do justice to it, we absolutely want to talk about that.
The Doom Patrol
That's like a long
character.
person.
I'll have to remember. I'll look him up. I feel bad. Doom Patrol's my jam.
They're prof.
No, the one who's in the bandages. Who's in the
Mr. Negative.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Negative. We're gonna have fun on that.
Sword Pens is pointing out Daredevil and Hawkeye.
Daredevil.
as well as Batgirl. Hawkeye has occasionally been hearing impaired. He's
Or blinded.
Negative Man. Sorry, not
Negative
Mr.
Man,
What am I
thank
saying?
you.
Thank you, Super 3.
You get a no prize. we need our own version of no prize, like a yo prize. I don't know.
Do. Okay,
figure
no
that out.
prize. One of my favorite things about comics is letter columns, and y'all can stop me at any time here. But
I'm digging.
this is an old tradition from the sort of like because comics culture grew out of like pulp magazines and sci-fi fanzines, and you write letters into the editors on those things. So many comics, not all of them, unfortunately, have carried, and some still carry letters columns in the back. I'm going to do a special shout out right now to Patsy Walker Hellcat, which unfortunately has just been announced as ending and is a wonderful book, but has had such an amazing letters column. I think every single issue has had a picture of a reader's cat sent in along with a letter.
I was really digging that book.
It's so great. Okay, so letters columns gave rise to their own sort of culture, as you might expect from people writing in. There were people who wrote in a lot. There were people who wrote in with opinions and questions, and then, of course, corrections. And if you could send, I don't know if someone wants to jump.
Well,
on
like
this
no,
end,
it's like
but,
if you found an error in a comic book, in the Marvel book specifically, it was the Merry Marvel Marching Society.
Was the official fan club at one
The
point for Marvel Comics.
MS.
And if you could find a continuity error or a problem with the book and then solve it with bullshit and come up with a reason why it wasn't actually an error, even though somebody might think so, you would win a no prize, which the joke was, of course, you won no prize.
Yeah.
But
They're like,
I think
"Here,
they
you
eventually
get
made a
nothing."
certificate eventually of like a no prize that they started sending people eventually. My favorite was an issue of She-Hulk, and I don't know if anyone remembers this, where they were trying to explain the continuity of why she had been like sleeping with Juggernaut, but like that didn't fit continuity, that she and Juggernaut were kind of dating and like all this other thing. And then they found out that there was alternate dimensional tourism happening from what they had labeled Dimension A, where there are no superheroes. But if you found out that your genetic match on our universe was a superhero, you could temporarily come into our universe and have superpowers and just run around and be them for like a couple days and then leave, which was how they were explaining all these people kind of being weird every now and then.
Oh my gosh.
Was because of these holes to Universe A that would open up and people would come through the dimension from Universe A.
This was a no prize?
No, well, this was an issue of She-Hulk. I'm going somewhere, I swear. So, like, eventually she's like they catch She-Hulk's Universe A counterpart and like, did you sleep with Juggernaut? And she's like, oh my God, yeah. It's like, oh. So eventually they have to pass a law banning these a-holes from ever opening up and messing with things, because a-holes were ruining everything in our universe. So She-Hulk basically says anytime something weird happens in the Marvel Universe, it's because of an a-hole. This damn a-hole comes in
Wow.
from Universe A. So it's the whole issue is her going, oh, those a-holes keep messing everything up.
That's
And they have a court case about it because they're trying to sue somebody from Universe A.
yeah.
She-Hulk
is
is a
this like-
lawyer. She's a Hulk and a lawyer.
Is this one of the more
A-holes.
recent?
It's got to be the
No,
slot run, maybe?
I feel like I was in Texas, so this might have been like, oh God.
Newer than the John Byrne, but older than the Charles Soule, probably.
Oh, yeah, I'll have to look it up. I'll look it up because it was a long. I was in Texas. That was.
I
Man,
gotta
that was a long
say-
time. That was like almost 8 years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
No more. Oh God.
All like body switching, like you get weird consent issues there, but that's a separate discussion from the fact that a-holes are ruining everything is the
That was-
greatest thing
yeah,
I've ever
It
heard.
was a long
Really
walk to
funny.
that
Yes!
joke, and it was an amazing
So
walk
worth
to
it.
that joke.
So good.
I was
Oh my
waiting for it.
God.
I was waiting for it too, because you kept saying like Dimension A. I was like, and they're opening holes from Dimension. Like, it's
Yeah, no, they're
You
going
saw
there.
it coming?
Oh,
did
yeah,
not
I
see
saw
it
it.
I
coming.
didn't see it coming either in the book. Well, and like, and it's always interesting because they did actually deal with the how do you sue someone, a doppelganger. Like the whole thing was a doppelganger issue, and it was an interesting one.
Yeah.
Oh, Juggernaut. Yeah, Juggernaut was briefly like a very troubled hero. He was trying to be a good guy. Like Xavier was dead, and he's like, I'm not going to be a... Juggernaut's a villain, man.
He's a villain. Yeah, that was partially during Siege.
We're going to teach you guys all these words. Siege and Rebirth and 52 and Civil War II, Electric Boogaloo. You're going to learn all these things.
Guys, we have so many wonderful questions. How are we going to do this?
It was Odin's brother.
It was before Fear itself.
Yeah, because
he went evil in Fear itself.
That's right.
That was the
he
end
went
of his
evil,
good run.
and then Colossus got the Sidorak gem.
We're doing
right?
it.
Yeah.
We're doing it. Yeah. We'll get into the gem. We'll get into Juggernaut.
Is that a turn and explain or?
No, we'll get there.
Okay.
And poor Jess is going to get a text from me after this asking if she wants to be on the show if she ever gets a break from work. So that'll be fun because she's a fabulous. I have her The Boys. I have her hardcover of The Boys.
Oh.
I think I may have to
I
get
read
that
that
back to her.
screenplay years ago.
Man,
I love this question.
I'm middling on it. Well,
And I'm so sorry. There's so many great questions here. El Obadiah has asked, which comics have you read
That you actively took away a personal change from. What comics
wow.
changed you?
A lot of them.
We're going deep.
Whoa.
Invisibles.
A Vertigo comic by Grant Morrison and a host of artists.
I've got the Jack Kirby anthology with the Jimmy Olsen and the Outsider, the New Gods and all of Kirby's like DC early stuff is. There's nothing like it in the world. It's like Jack Kirby. We're gonna do a Kirby episode, and
We'll probably do a
Legendary
couple Kirby
artist,
episodes.
co-creator of nearly every superhero you can think
Jessica,
of.
Stevie, and Brittany are all in chat right now.
Hi, everybody.
You know what? The three of you can just be in the next show. We're gonna all leave.
Yeah.
Forget it.
Yeah.
The chat is
great
is
show.
already turning into another show.
Yeah.
That's so scary. I can't believe we got these people to watch us be stupid on the internet.
Amazing. Swordpen says Sandman messes with my head. Suddenly nothing is real. Yeah.
Yeah, Sandman changed the lives of a lot of
Everything
people.
is stories.
Yeah.
That one changed me for sure.
Promethea.
Oh my
I
gosh.
don't know that any I can't. I'm gonna have to think about
Whatever
that one.
happened to the Man of Tomorrow?
That's
I'm trying to think of ones that so many. I've read so many, and so many have changed me fundamentally. V for Vendetta really did a number.
Fun Home. Fun Home's just a
Fun
life changer
Home.
in general.
I'm reading.
They
that.
made it into a
I'm
play.
reading that now.
I'm gonna see it this weekend.
I'm seeing it in 2 weeks. Actually, I think we're doing we're doing it. A bunch of friends are going to see Fun Home. Fun Home is an autobiographical slice of life. Closeted father, I guess, is the best way to.
I always struggle with
multi-generational.
Fun Home because the less you know about it, the more amazing of a journey it is. But if I don't tell you anything, you don't know why you should read it.
I think I've got a pitch for it.
Okay.
For the theater nerds, this is going to be the most theater nerd. This is like its own Google search.
Sure.
It's the comic book 20th century sexual identity story of Arcadia. It's like Tom Stoppard's Arcadia, but with all about sexual identity in the 20th century
That's
instead.
so beautiful.
Which everyone in the chat's like, what is your problem now? Arcadia is like one of the best plays ever written in the English language. It's amazing. It's almost better to read than to.
These are some great answers in chat as well. Honorable Discord says Neil Gaiman's Death changed me.
Legion.
That happened to me with High Cost of Living. Yeah.
Oh yeah, death. Oh yeah.
Yeah, the mental health stuff with Legion.
It's Marvel Zombies changed you. I kind of want to meet you now.
Changed you into what?
Hungry. It makes you very hungry.
Hungry.
Hungry for love.
Brian Kivan is generally a good choice for trying stuff for newbies. That's going to be
Yeah.
my answer to that. Star Pilot 6 is saying that in chat. A lot of our questions, guys, are about recommendations and good starts for newbies.
Every week you're gonna get a couple recommendations. I know
Yeah.
this is our super chill episode, so we're not loading you up because this is just we want to get to know you guys.
And we want you to get to know us.
John Waters. We actually have a whole thing of Garth Ennis is the John Waters of comics. That is actually on our list. Is Garth Ennis is the John Waters of comics? We've got a whole thing. It'll be great.
I think I saw that.
Yeah,
in
it's on the doc.
Yeah,
it's
it's
on
in
the
the
doc.
doc.
It's Garth Ennis, the John Waters of comic books.
I can't answer that question. It's
Demerge.
really upsetting me that I can't think of one.
Like
With
changed
the
you?
exception of the Nightcrawler, I don't even remember which X-Men.
Well,
comic
fundamentally,
that was.
Doctor Strange changed you, and fundamentally, you are married because of Squirrel Girl. Squirrel Girl has actually affected your life on a
That is
fundamental
true.
level.
That is true. That is true. Brittany is Squirrel Girl, and I am Doctor Strange.
Yeah. Actually, we were talking about that. You did a costume party a bunch of years ago.
Brittany has thrown 2.
Was it your
My
party or
wife.
her party?
It was hers.
It was her birthday. That was the costume
My birthday
party.
parties have been Bill Murray birthday.
It was always the Bill Murray ones for you.
I've done the Bill Murray parties.
And she does the
and
superhero.
She did an Avengers party. Then her last time was a couple years ago where she did.
I missed that one.
Avengers DC crossover.
Because the first one I was coming off of a play, so I was really tired and very drunk.
And you came as Purple Man.
And I came as the Purple Man back before the Purple Man was really not cool. Actually, and
No,
I'm gonna,
it was soon
I
after.
painted myself.
It was soon after Jessica
Jones because
was out, and you showed up, and we were all like, "Ooh,
too soon."
oh.
But this is great. This is gonna make me. I'm gonna look this up really quickly because this is my
I know
favorite
we,
photo. It's Eddie, and bless Eddie for letting me take this photo.
We asked Sax and
to grab a
Zach
couple photos.
to grab a few. I don't know if they have them ready. or not,
They
but-
do. I just have to figure out which photo it is really quickly, so I can tell them which one to bring up because I want the one with Eddie. Such a great photo, because like I was worried about it. 333464 _. If you could pull up, and I'll see when it comes up.
Ghostwalker wants to know if they recognize Matt from somewhere else. Maybe something with Kevin Smith, like the Fat Man on Batman podcast?
Yeah, I did the Fat Man on Batman podcast for about a little over a year. And then I do a lot of stuff over at Screen Junkies. I have my own Marvel show over at AfterBuzz and Popcorn Talk Network. So, yeah.
Yeah, you know his face.
Did you find
Maybe that's it?
333464? Yep.
Oh,
So
that's right. It's Luke. Oh,
there's
right.
Eddie's Luke Cage punching me in the face as Purple Man.
Oh, that's right.
We got a whole series of him like wringing my neck and punching me in the face.
And so yeah, for the record, guys, Purple Man is literally purple.
He is bright purple.
And he's one of the more despicable villains. I think.
My jerk comment is he's a DC villain in a Marvel universe, which is my jerk villain. That's my jerk thing that I say. I feel bad about it now.
There's an interesting thing because both the universes have traded off which one is sort of the dark and gritty one at different times. They keep sort of changing their mind and rearranging themselves.
And Jessica's Alias book was meant to be a grittier book.
I mean, there's a
they
reason
went
it
out
starts
and
with
And I would love an
they
episode
put
on
a
that. It was
mature-
Marvel Max.
Marvel
it was
Max.
the first book in the Marvel Max line aimed at mature readers before the abandonment of the Comics Code. Which, if you'll note, like I endorse Alias with all the thumbs up in the world, but it is funny to read now where you can feel them kind of going nuts in that first couple issues, like, we can do what? And then it sort of settles down from...
It's like, okay, we've done
into,
it.
Like,
We've
It
done
and
it.
we're
does.
telling our story, and it's one of my favorite stories.
Well,
that
and
we'll ever read.
I love that they set her up as such a wonderful train wreck. I mean, and that's like I will also say, being in LA, I definitely I've known some train wrecks in my time, and I'm like, I feel like we went to high school together. You're a mess, and like her whole origin is so interesting.
So good.
And it's the best retconning. Retconning is a phrase we'll use.
Yes.
Making retconning is technically a phrase for changing things that happened in the past to suit what you're doing in the story now, which is kind of necessary when you're telling a 75-year-long narrative that's published by multiple writers, 22 pages a month at a time, in individual splices. Like it's unavoidable, but there's also we also use it to describe going back and filling in dead time, which I don't necessarily think should be called retcon. It should have a different phrase.
This is
Deadcon.
a weird sort of deep cut, but there is an essayist I adore who Eric Burns White, who writes wrote over at Websnark. He's doing different ones now, but he had an essay that I've always loved where he talked about retcons, which is retroactive continuity.
Retroactive continuity.
Retcon, where he broke them down like hurricanes into categories. A Category 1 retcon is a lost tale.
That's cool.
A Category 2 retcon, I think, is like the story you thought you knew. A Category 3 retcon is like the thing. And what's great is he goes up and he's sort of like, each one is more risky. Here's what you gain and lose with your readers when you do it. And what he says is like, because the essay is sort of addressing like a reboot of comics that he was not a big fan of. But he says, point out at the end of it, that there is one completely successful Category 5 retcon on record. And we now know it as the Silver Age of Comics.
Oh my God. Okay.
Because if you pull it off, it works out. I'm paraphrasing loosely.
No, I'm
but
seeing the
idea was,
JSA cover where they're all doing the seance.
They end up like the Silver Age starts out as it's just basically its own thing where like everything is separate. Later on, they weave everything together.
You just
so it's
blew my
not
mind.
a like. He's a brilliant dude.
That's like a slushy.
Because I'm not familiar enough with the DC stuff to know, but like I know the Marvel stuff really well, and I'm trying to think.
It occurs to me it didn't feel like a retcon. It felt like a natural progression of. But now I'm looking at it.
In certain cases, at the time, they made a new Green Lantern, and they didn't immediately bother tying him to the Golden Age Green Lantern.
No.
Oh God, guys! No,
There's also
the
there is a
60s
picture
are
of me
known
as
as
Alan
the
Scott
Silver Age
too.
of comics,
Yeah,
and he means DC.
Okay, because I'm
basically,
thinking
DC, like a new Flash, a new Green Lantern, initially almost totally untethered from the old ones, although they've gone in and filled them and connected them.
That being said, Captain America was actually not killed in the 40s. Like, he went and retired as a school teacher, and the comics just didn't do well, so they eventually faded away, I think. Maybe he was killed by a mobster.
Well, they actually explained it in the books, which we will get into in a Captain America episode of the second Captain, the third.
Oh, like there's
Captain's
been a
America.
The 50s Captain America, who was a different guy in the suit in those books.
Yeah,
which is the whole thing.
Yeah.
Let's do a quick show and tell, and then we'll let people know about what we're doing next week.
I'm gonna let one of you guys look at the questions at some point because I feel bad. There's so many.
No, guys,
there are some good
actually,
ones.
I was gonna say, if whoever who's making the doc is I think it might be Ryan making the doc. Feel free to wean it a little bit if you feel like saving
but
us
there's
some.
so much good stuff.
Let's see. What am I gonna do? There's gonna be a Jimmy Olsen. There's gonna be a whole Jimmy Olsen episode at some point because I have a whole love of Jimmy Olsen. This is actually one I keep. I have some comics framed on my wall at home.
Yeah.
And this is one of my favorite, which is Kamandi, the Last Boy on Earth, with a beautiful Jack Kirby cover, which is the far future where there's only one man left. He's the last boy on Earth. And you can see they find an ancient relic, a magic relic that they find in the far future, which is the Superman's indestructible costume, which is now like an artifact, like a D&D lore artifact in this future, is the costume of this great hero. Like, it's so nuts. This book is everything Jack Kirby did. Like, Kirby, I love that the Marvel movies, like the Guardians of the Galaxy is the first movie to kind of start to have his sensibility of the weirdness,
weird and out
an
there,
amazing futurist who predicted so much. Like, you read his sci-fi, and so much of what he was writing has kind of come true. He worked as an artist for a long time, as we said, co-creator of a lot of things, but he went from like plotting a lot of things to just writing outright, especially when he moved over to DC.
When he moved over to DC. I mean, that was part of the deal that he made with DC to get him away from Marvel because he was
angry. He was a famously barky guy.
Yeah.
Small suspenders, cigar. Actually,
there's legend in comics is that the thing of the Fantastic Four is partially a self-portrait by Kirby. Thinking of himself as this curmudgeonly New York.
And J. Jonah Jameson is Steve Ditko making fun of Stan Lee.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
We have an amazing. Actually, I don't know if that picture ever made it in from your Facebook of Matt Mercer dressed up as Stan Lee punching our friend Coleman dressed up as as Jack Kirby.
Yeah.
And they both were doing the voices all night. It was so disturbing. If that pops up in a minute, we'll notice. But otherwise, that's my book that I've got a bunch here, but that's the one
that's the one that you want to.
That was the one I really wanted to show. Oh wait.
Yeah, there.
Well, that's okay. That is in fact Matt Mercer dressed as Stan Lee.
That's our friend Doug as Skinny Hulk. There's Mercer.
Okay, let's see if he's gonna.
There's
the
Last
Last
Supper
with Marisha's Dark Phoenix.
For those of you curious who my
Witch.
wife is, she's the one dressed as Thor there to the left of Mercer.
I forgot about the Enchantress and Hercules. What a good photo that was.
Yeah, that was a good time.
That was a good party.
This is live. Okay.
We did karaoke.
I was like,
That's not a picture. It threw me off for a second.
A lot of amazing. Wow. Lol. Yep.
Yeah. Do you have anything you want to show? I know.
I did bring a couple things.
Let me pull up my incredible satchel of goodness here.
Just while they're waiting, I will show off. Like, this is one of the reasons why I love Jimmy Olsen. Is I showed this one earlier, but like this is one of the other books from my collection of I was a big fan of Adam Warlock when I was a kid.
Yeah, you were.
So
amazing.
I have a whole and the band named after him, Adam Warrock. So. You do not.
Of course.
You do not. Oh my God.
So.
We're starting there.
When I bought my random couple of issues and I read them just over and over again. But then when I started to climb into back issues.
Oh my God.
First, I went and got all of the Generation X's that I could. Most of my stuff is back home, but some of them I just end up rebuying. And I may have met Labdell at a con and
Look at that.
had him sign this, like the first Generation X issue I could find, like on the day.
What was her? Was it Penance? Was the right? It was
yeah.
Penance. What
Before
a cool
Speedball
character.
became Penance.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that
Penance
was
2.0.
yeah.
Yeah.
Funny story, Generation X is an amazing book for like 20 issues, and then a book that I still dearly love for like 50 more issues. But like it was the first one that I tracked down all of. I tracked down like the Ash Can, which is the limited like convention thing. It had just, it was writing about teenagers that...
It was a great teen book.
It was
That
kind of like the New
really-
Mutants of the 90s for
Here
me.
is
X-Men
Husk.
books, yeah.
She was a
Oh,
nerd,
Husk.
which I loved.
I loved her.
this page.
That page. There we go.
This is her playing combative Scrabble with her new friend, Angelo Torres. Poor skin.
Oh, poor thing.
This was the book that sort of really, really hooked me. And then I started to go backwards in time. So here's my journey.
To
Before-
the Generation
Oh,
X of the 80s.
Actually, I will get. We're gonna need a little thing for Cliff Note, like a Cliff Note beanbag or something. X-Men books in general, a lot of them, since it's a school, tend to be about a class of mutant students at those schools. Gen X was not the first class of students, but it was one of like the big new classes of teenagers with superpowers. But before Gen X, there was Class 2, which was the New
This
Mutants.
was the Generation X of the 80s.
Now, technically, what I should have here is the Marvel graphic novel that introduced these characters, which was
this is
an
a better
oversized thing. But
They're
yeah,
the
they're
same
both good.
cover.
Is it?
I've got both of them.
Are they?
Yeah.
Because it's different material inside.
Pretty sure they're both the same.
They might have just
It's
sometimes.
not a
sometimes
reprint,
they're cheap.
though. It's,
Not a reprint.
it looks a lot like it.
The graphic novel was the first appearance, the official first appearance, right? of
They
the New
were
Mutants?
introduced in a standalone story in the early 80s when it was very new in comics to be like, what if we told the story in like one big chunk instead of in monthly things, and we make it like big and pretty? And it was like, whoa! And the first of those was, of course, the death of Captain Marvel. But the fourth one was the New Mutants, which was a bunch of teenagers discovering their weird powers and becoming the kid.
So let me ask,
X-Men.
which one on the cover is your favorite of the New Mutants?
Of this time period or now?
On this particular cover.
Well, right now, because of what's happening in comics right now, Sunspot, my boy,
Yeah?
because he's got a new code name right now. Sunspot right here. He's got a new code name, which is the coolest code name in all. Like my favorite character. He's the new Citizen V. Mm-hmm. We will be getting into that very soon.
That's a whole other.
That's a whole
issue.
bag
There
of
is
potatoes.
so much. It's a straight up tie between Danny Moonstar and Rain Sinclair for me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't choose.
I have.
That is
This is Rain Sinclair. Her name is Wolfgang.
the Buffy Willow fight of the century, isn't
Yes.
it?
I've always been a giant fan of Cannonball.
Well, Cannonball, who is the big brother of the Scrabble playing character you just met, which is
Yeah.
part of how I hooked into these guys. Which is
I love the fact that they wrote him with a country accent, and I was raised in Texas, and believe it or not, I used to have like a pretty thick Texas drawl to myself.
Oh,
In
you
fact,
still do? No, I'm
No,
just.
I really don't. I know I don't.
I know you
because
don't.
I've heard tapes of me when I was a kid that I didn't even know existed until 2 Christmases ago. And I don't sound. I'm like, Mom, Dad, I wanna. I'm like, that is not me, but it's totally me. So I had a very deep appreciation for the Southern drawl of Sam Guthrie.
and his,
Plus,
and
it was
his
just
whole
awesome
family.
that he could fly through Sentinels. I just like every single one of those artworks. I just like.
He's
loved him doing that.
he's still a cool character. He was a rocking out as an Avenger for a while. He's had a good run of it.
and then I'm gonna throw in after
Bring it.
my next journey. Like I got into New Mutants, and then my first. This is not my personal copy. I borrowed this from the store like a
Aw.
jerk.
You are.
My
But
copy
you're
is
allowed.
beat up and cost $5, and this one is much nicer. But I was on like a family trip to New York, and it was like. My formative experience with buying a back issue
Yeah.
was picking up what looked to me like the coolest, oldest X-Men
know
in
exactly
the
where you're
world.
going. Oh yeah.
Oh, that's a good
Uncanny
one.
X-Men 201. Long before I knew what happened before or after this issue, I had read it maybe 1,000 times. It is a battle for leadership between Cyclops and Storm, who are two of the best characters of all time, but edged to my girl Mohawk Storm, who has no powers at this point in time. It's
She has the power to cut you. That was that was like her whole run. Mutant Shiv powers.
it's this wonderful, like, it's a great example from the, like, fairly, not completely unique, but pretty spectacular, like, 16-year run of the same writer on X-Men. Chris Claremont wrote that book from 94 to whatever 16 years after that is.
We've got a Claremont
issue 94,
we've got a
94.
Claremont episode
Sorry,
on
1975 to 1992 or 3.
We've got a Claremont episode on the list. We're going to do a Claremont
I love the story of Claremont and the X-Men and how, like, X-Men were dead. Like, they were dead. They were
done.
doing reprint issues as of what? Like, somewhere around 60? So
In
they
the-
did, like,
in the
30
60s,
reprint issues where they didn't say that they were doing reprints. They were like, oh, these aren't selling. We're not going to pay anyone to write or draw these anymore, but we are going to continue selling them as, numbered comics. So number 1 becomes...
number
65 or whatever it is. They do that for 30 issues.
and just
It was
letting someone
reruns.
get in
Comics
there and
have
go
reruns.
nuts.
Yeah, and they decide to do away with them. Then about 5 years later, they're like, hey, we've got this X-Men title. Do we really want to just throw it away? Do we want to give it one more chance? And Lin Wein was like, I've got an idea. Let's do a giant size issue with completely new X-Men and see how it does. And giant size X-Men comes out, does gangbusters. They're like, but I think Lin had taken over editing by that point, couldn't draw it or write it. So Chris Claremont, I think, was an intern or a secretary or like something. He wasn't drawing. He was like an assistant editor or something. And they put the question to the room like, is anyone interested? No one raised their hands. No one cared. And he was like, I'll give it a spin.
There's actually
Bring in history.
There is a documentary, actually. There's a pretty solid documentary about the Claremont run. And it is, while I will say the Claremont run has definitely... it is not timeless. I would say if you're going to delve in it, which is why I'm not recommending it, I'm going to say, like, at some point we're going to curate some issues.
Yeah, I think that's smart.
Which is the way to go. It's a lot like, it's a lot like the show Moonlighting. It's genius. Let me pick 6 episodes to show you. I love the show Moonlighting. Let me pick 6. And just we can ignore the rest. And but it's also the DNA of everything that works about the X-Men. Like it is,
really
there is a
is.
genetic code in it that is essential, which is really fun to talk about.
I love that you're saying there's something unique to the genetic material that made it X-Men.
Yeah.
Good job metaing that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, well, I didn't even see. I was entirely in, okay.
we both were listening to it.
I had a
My
mutant
last
metaphor.
note on Uncanny X-Men 201 is that I already knew her a little bit from the cartoons, but reading this issue, it features Kitty Pryde both being into computers and ballet, and sitting there being like a little nerdy brunette trying to fit in with everyone, but being a little maybe too academic for her own good. And I felt seen in a way I had never been seen. And yeah, the rest is history.
Well, if we're going to talk...
Kitty Pryde gave me unreasonable
Kitty Pryde.
expectations about the tangibility of women. There we go. I'm so proud I got to finally use that joke.
Since we're on the subject of Kitty Pryde, let's put this one
Hope it
up.
didn't go through anybody there. Oh my God! What?
One of my favorites.
Oh no!
Oh
you did
yeah,
not.
we did.
That's one of my proudest buys from the last 7 years of my life.
That is-
was finally finding that one in a good condition that I could afford.
Uncanny X-Men number 139.
Nothing like a polar bear to tie an X-Men cover together.
Yeah.
That's how you know it's a great issue.
There's
Now-
nothing that can't fit in
Now,
somewhere.
I don't remember. I don't think this is her first appearance. I think this is her
First
first
costume.
appearance as Sprite, not even as Shadowcat.
No,
I think she gets
Shadowcat
the
was
name-
later.
She gets the name Sprite.
Sprite.
Ariel, Sprite.
Is it
Sprite's
Ariel?
first? I don't know.
Ariel and Sprite were both before Shadowcat, and her first appearance was the Hellfire Club run. Was the
Yeah.
same first appearance as
And I
that.
do have that first
Wow,
appearance.
we're
129?
I think so. Yeah, it was pretty much right before
Yeah,
this
lighters.
one. Yeah, but I know I've got the first appearance of the Hellfire Club at home too. But this is such an iconic cover. And welcome to the X-Men. Hope you survived the experience. That's the first appearance of that, but it's such a meme now for.
It's
The phrase
all of
became
Marvel, like-
standard. They
yeah,
used
they've-
it when new people joined the X-Men in notable recurrences, and,
Yeah.
and now it just makes us all smile.
Yeah.
I don't know.
we'll meme it. We're gonna meme it.
Yeah,
Our show title is actually going
Welcome to the Wednesday Club.
Welcome to the
Hope you
Wednesday
survived
Club.
the experience.
We
Yeah.
wanted to call it that, but we were like, it's not very friendly.
I got.
It's kind of threatening.
We're gonna work it in. We're gonna work it in.
Yeah.
It'll be cool.
But yeah, that's one of my proudest.
That's a
proudest
beautiful.
ones.
That's a beautiful
That's
cover.
amazing.
I actually have the cover of her, the Days of Future Past, with her backed up against the wall, looking
I love
on
that
my
one.
wall.
With
Yeah.
Wolverine also and all the like dead X-Men.
I promise we are going to make an effort to not make this show 100% X-Men all the time forever.
Oh,
There's
no.
probably going
But-
to be a decent amount.
But and it is like it was our gateway.
Yeah.
It was kind of our gateway.
I was all over the place, which was nice. Although, again, I have my fake X-Men, so I'm always fascinated by it because
Yeah.
in my head I
I
have
want
a
to
fake
hear more
X-Men.
about your fake X-Men.
They're so dumb.
You should get someone
They're real
to draw
to you.
them.
You know Grant Morrison. Your X-Men are real.
My X-Men, well, oh God, Grant. Oh, Grant's ruined me on so many levels. Let's. Where are we on the time, by the way? We're at 1:20.
Oh, gosh.
Okay, we got
Do you
a
have
little
more
bit
show
of
and
time.
tell?
I've got
I took
all
a lot of
this.
time.
I've got all. Well, let me show you. This is what made me feel like such a badass as a child.
No, that's good. That's
was
important.
collecting all 4 of the alternate Jim Lee covers.
Throw the Cyclops Wolverine one up. I think that's the.
But they all connect.
This is what is called a variant cover, and it's a trap. I'm so sorry
They
on behalf
they
of the
very
comics
much are.
industry.
They
We
very
do
much
love them,
are.
and we all have
No,
ones that we
show
buy.
that to the side there.
Oh no! This one goes.
There
Yeah,
you go.
there
Yeah.
we go.
See how it connects? Yeah. That was the.
Now we go Super Saiyan. Now that we're touching, there we go.
So yeah, Jim Lee got brought in to do the X-Men, and I always wanted all of them, and I finally got them when I was younger. I got
Yeah, that
them
may happen.
and loved it. What's that?
Someone was like, "I will 100%." Oh, Anthony Harris is like, "I will draw Talisin's fake X-Men." They're so ugly in my head. The only thing I really understood was like bad DIC animation of the 90s, 80s and 90s. There was, by the way, if you're a fan of this Jim Lee art style, which I'm both a fan of and I understand it's kitschy. I'm okay with the notion that some people, it's not everybody's cup of tea, but there is an animated opening to the original X-Men because they were showing the X-Men cartoon, the classic 80s cartoon, in Japan, but they hired a really intense Japanese animation company to do 2 openings for it, using the Jim Lee style, full anime style fight sequences with hard, heavy J-rock. I think actually the band X may have done one of the openings.
I know you showed this to me like years ago after you and I first met.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh,
What?
I have not seen this.
I'll Twitter a YouTube link out if let's make a note. I'm going to make a note to Twitter out a YouTube link to at least one, if not both of the openings. X-Men anime opening, so you guys can see the amazing Japanese X-Men and Mojo and Spiral and Gambit and pensive Cyclops and pensive Jean Grey. It's great.
Amazing.
Everyone's so emo. It's adorable.
I have seen a question go through chat a couple of times about whether we will do an episode on LGBT superheroes and dealing with things like bi erasure and all that stuff. If we ever I don't think we'll ever make it through an episode without discussing that stuff.
No,
but I
it's
am
kind of a
very
thing
happy to
now.
also make it a focus.
I think there's actually some really that's a long, big, interesting.
I did a 2-part video series on this question, and not the bi erasure specifically, but LGBT in comics and
like everything from like even like down to like the weird North Star reveal of the night. Like there's so much.
They were trying, man.
They were. It was like the awkward prom. It was like the awkward prom of. We'll
now
talk about X-Men and like there's so much.
Iceman is out now too.
Yep.
It's great.
Which is
We'll delve into it and we'll get a guest.
Let me show one last one. I've got a lot here, but let me show one last one.
You're gonna have to do a hologram issue. You know that, right?
Okay, I can do that also. This was my favorite comic as a child.
Oh my God, Omega Red.
Because this was the first appearance of Omega Red, and this was where I first learned that first appearances were a thing.
Aww.
Because like this was one of the first comics I ever owned. Like this was like maybe the 10th comic I ever bought, and I was like, wait, this is a character that's never been seen before. And then I went like to my comic book shop, asked a few questions, did some research, and found out he's never existed before. This is the first appearance of him. And that's where I became hooked on first appearances was this. So if there's a comic that changed my life.
Just put it on camera properly.
If there's a comic that changed my life, that one's actually part of it. Because now I love collecting first appearances.
Oh, look at Omega Red's weird little hand there.
Yeah, and like I had the toy all because I had his first appearance. So like I have this weird connection to Omega Red because I learned
fantastic.
I learned of
You were
first
there at the
appearances.
beginning.
Yeah, and I bought it by happenstance. Like it wasn't like I went and sought it. I purchased it.
It's so hard not to throw shade at Omega Red.
Oh no, go ahead. He's a
not to
ridiculous
throw shade.
character, but I loved him for the fact that he was a first appearance.
I
and-
specifically, as a birthday present to a friend, got a friend of mine a cell from the X-Men animated series, like an actual production cell of Colossus fighting Omega Red, but it was actually like I don't know if you know much about animation, but there's like A frames, B frames, and C frames. But it was definitely a filler frame. So it was done by an artist who wasn't one of the main artists. It was one of their like peons that was possibly like prison labor kind of low level. I wish I were even kidding. So like it was really awkward and looked like that fresco that got ruined. In like just like, and they were in a position where they both had their like Colossus had his shirt off, and they were in a position where it looked like they were just groping each other, but like poorly drawn, and just gave him this really awkward Omega Red Colossus vaguely erotic cell.
Wow.
And Fran just put in the worst frame. I'm so proud.
That's something special. Yeah.
He's a strange character.
Yeah, he's like Steven Seagal's spirit animal. It's like, but from Russia.
Yeah, and he's the weird tendrils that come out of his arms, and they're not vibranium. What are they? They're like...
Are they techno-organic?
They're weird.
They're not
They're
techno-organic.
He's kind of got the whiplash from the Iron Man thing, but it's like if we could figure out a way to make that dumber.
And they can like electrocute him, but it's like an electric poison. It's a weird thing.
And he has red in his name because he's Russian for some reason. That's kind of addressed. Is there a ponytail? I feel like there's a ponytail involved.
Which foil?
Wait, back. I feel like the Phoenix cover.
All right,
not Maggot. I can't believe you have Maggot on the cover of a book.
This one?
No, that's not Maggot. Who is the one with the gun hands?
Oh, Random?
Random. Thank you. I was trying
You
to.
want to use that one?
That's too
I think
deep.
he was vetoing it.
This one?
Yeah, no, we'll do
right.
Dark Phoenix.
All right,
and,
so here's
the
why-
Nightcrawler.
Here's why I brought this one. Fatal Attractions and Maximum Carnage by for Spider-Man.
I'm so curious.
Were my first big collected works as a kid. And Fatal Attractions made me cry.
Can we go
As
to
a
Comic Cam really quick? I want to see if this is gonna work.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Oh wow.
It kinda
It
works,
kind of
yeah.
works. Let's see if I can make it like animate in a weird way and like give you guys a fake 3D experience.
Yeah, that one's Nightcrawler. That was
here,
definitely
here.
my favorite foil.
It's funny.
Wow, that's actually
I,
works.
Yeah, a little bit.
Kinda works.
It kind of works.
I feel this is the most awkward internet 3D experience.
But
Who needs a Vive?
Fatal Attractions was the one where you found out that Wolverine actually had the bone claws because
Yeah.
Magneto, like, for the first time was like, screw you, your bones are metal, like
pulled
ripped
it all out
all
of
the
him.
adamantium out of him, and he was like dying as it was like they were leaving an asteroid in. And I was like,
spoilers
I was
for
like,
Fatal Attractions from the early 90s.
yeah,
There will- yeah, nothing-
I was,
yeah, there will always
I
be
was reading
spoilers.
it was like, don't kill Wolverine.
Well, like every jerk
wonderful.
kid, every jerk kid that you knew in like the comic store who was always the one who was like, I don't see why Batman doesn't get a gun and just kill the Joker was like
Yeah.
so happy with that because he'd been waiting for Magneto
Magneto
to do that
yeah,
forever.
And I was the same. I was like, why has Magneto never
why are
done that?
you
But then
letting
he
a
did
jerk
it, and I was like,
kid
no,
win?
don't do that, no.
don't hurt him. He's his heart is so tender inside that adamantium skeleton.
Yeah.
Don't take it away.
Yeah. So anyway, I'll stop
Yeah.
with that because I have a lot more to show. But
Yeah, we'll stop there because we are. Someone was like, "Is this QVC?" I'm like, kind of.
You can't buy any of them, though.
This is like anti-QVC because this is us showing us things that we're not going to let you have. Yeah, they're ours.
Yeah.
Or in one case, they belong to the property of your comic book store. No, but these are thankfully also thanks to the world of digital books, you can actually read a lot of these. Like
Yeah.
I have a subscription to Marvel and I just like read stuff.
Your library may have trade paperback collections of a lot of these as well. Trade paperback
Libraries.
is just a term we're very used to, which means bound together issues of something.
yeah, you can go find Fatal Attractions instead of having to get all 6 of the issues like I did. You can find it as a trade paperback.
Libraries are there's a whole lot of libraries that have really good comic book collections.
Yeah.
I go to the Pasadena Library all the time for that reason.
And librarians are usually open to your requests. If it's something they can get a hold of, they will try to
A
get
lot
it
of
in.
comic book fans.
Yeah.
A lot of them
Nerds!
are comic book
Nerds
fans.
everywhere! I love it!
It's so good.
Nerds are winning.
We won. We kind of won. We are the biggest movie franchise in the world. We won.
Yeah.
It's over.
That's true.
The war's over.
It means you're all in the club with us now.
It's
exciting.
You finally all got it.
we're all in.
You
now.
all caught on. You made fun of us, and then you got it.
Obsidian Butterfly points out libraries are starting to do digital copies too. There
Yes,
are programs
they are.
like Hoopla and others that I haven't used that you may be able to rent digital comics through.
And let me plug, I have not used Comixology Unlimited yet. I would imagine it's as good as their service. I just don't know what their library looks like. But Marvel
Very image heavy.
Unlimited, though the app is spotty.
Yeah, can be.
They have 25, 30,000 titles on there.
Incredible
20.
value.
I think they just hit 20.
Did they? Okay,
They
so
just
yeah.
sent me an email. I
There's a
should've read it.
monthly subscription
It's a monthly
fee,
yeah.
and
I think it's like $10 a month, but you get so many back issues. Like I've caught up on
I do
countless comics that way. You know, like I'll be like, you know what? I never read that. I'm gonna go read that tonight. So, and you can pay, I think it's $90 for the entire year. And they send you like your card, and like I've gotten into like cool stuff at Comic-Con because of it.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I got to see a 15-minute preview for Doctor Strange because I'm in the Marvel Unlimited Club. I got to see
taking advantage of my Marvel Unlimited
Guardians
membership.
of the Galaxy 15. Like they did like a 15-minute. They showed the whole jail sequence from Guardians of the Galaxy to Marvel Unlimited subscribers a month before the movie.
Yeah, your Facebook was so smug that week. I just remember being like, fucking key.
Yeah, I
like
got to
still
take Brittany to
scrolling,
that.
though.
I was like,
Not going to stop
No,
looking.
no, keep going. I don't want the algorithm to think I care. Yeah. I gotta keep scrolling. Never let Facebook see you cry.
yeah, but yeah, Marvel. I definitely think Marvel Unlimited is worth it. If it gets a little buggy, just like download the issue and have it in your downloads
And
slot.
it has now, like, we've reached the point in the past couple years where Marvel Unlimited, I believe, is getting all or nearly all of their new releases on like a 6-month delay.
Yeah, about that.
Which means
It's
you
approximately,
can catch up on a lot of stuff.
But it is 6 months behind, so don't get it thinking like, oh, I'm
There's so much to read.
I'm caught up. Yeah, because you won't be. But
Yeah,
there's so
not
much to
that
read.
that's necessarily, you don't necessarily need to be caught up, and certainly not for this show.
And this is a rule.
I
It
am
is okay not to have
so
read
not
things.
caught up. I am
Yeah,
so not.
we're
caught
not
up.
going to be. We're actually specifically going to have guests who have never read comic books before, just because it's going to be fun to talk at them and watch their faces do this. So.
Talk at them and then hopefully
Receive
persuade
questions.
Oh
them
no,
to-
they're gonna. I love non-comic book readers' questions about comic books. I
Yes.
find really fascinating.
Especially since there's often things that you don't realize
Well, we
are
take it for
ridiculous
granted,
and
yeah.
impossible to explain until you attempt to explain them to someone.
Half my new comic spiel when we get into like the function of it was because I was trying to explain it to my mom when I first started reading, because she was having trouble with like, especially once I went to manga and everything reversed, and like suddenly it was like some of the rules changed. It's very interesting.
One of the moments where like I already knew I was in love with my wife. Hi, Brittany. I already knew I was in love with her. But one of the moments that made me fall in love with her even more was her trying to explain Rocket Raccoon's origin to me, because I had never read the Mignola run. I've read it now, but she had read it because Rocket's one of her favorites. And she was like, oh, maybe, no, he's from Half-World. And I'm like, okay, what is Half-World? She's like, well, there's Craze, there's Loonies. They're taken care of by the clown people. And I was like, whoa, what? Yeah, so I love comics.
That's amazing.
Yeah, no, and
And they're weird. They're weird.
They are, and man,
Wonderfully so.
I can get like thanks to comic book conventions and otherwise, and anime conventions especially, because explaining American comic books to anime fans is really fascinating.
They're like, different writers and what? Why?
Well, there's weird, like they'll point out things where you're like, it didn't even occur to me that was weird, but you're right. Like that's like just the all sorts of layers of like down to like the way things are colored. And to like the way the costumes work and why. I mean, like, there's a lot of like, you need fresh eyes for some of these questions because it's really, comics, especially superhero comics, are weird.
Yeah.
How does this exist? It's such it's great.
There's something very joyful about those universes, but they're extremely strange.
They're
Yeah.
very strange.
Ooh, there's a video of your proposal?
Oh, no,
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
I warn you, if you're going to go into the
Haven't seen it, go
Matt
look
and
up.
Brittany proposal video, is slightly longer than an episode of Lost.
It is,
But slightly more successful conclusion, I think.
yes,
than an
yeah.
episode of
It's
Lost.
it is 45 minutes. It was edited by Grant Imahara and
Speaking of Jessica Drew,
Ginny,
also.
yeah, Ginny Newman. They were both part of it, and I proposed with a giant LARP. We called
Spoilers.
we called it the LARPosal, and I
LARPosal.
proposed with a LARP that Matt Mercer and Marisha helped me write, and it was great. You should go look it up. Go look it up.
It's
on YouTube.
Amazing.
And then
it's so overcooked. It's beautiful.
Well, it wouldn't be like if
No, it wouldn't be you.
It wouldn't be Matt Key if it
It
wasn't
wouldn't be
overcooked.
Matt Key if Matt, like, it's practically your brand is like, this could be sillier. I feel like we could really.
Yeah, this could be sillier and far more complicated.
Can we bring in 12
Yeah.
more pies? Yeah.
Yep. That's
Balance.
Now
Yep.
I'm like afraid.
How about
How does
mermaids?
this show end? Are there pies?
no,
There will be. Well,
there. Yeah,
might be
there's
a
always
little-
pie.
yeah.
There's been
The pie is
to
a
the
lie.
face in Geek and Sundry before.
not to the face. Just pie. Comic books and pie. By the way,
Yeah.
I used to do comic books and pie. I would take my books to a cemetery if I didn't have the Wednesday group and sit with pie I have a piece of cheddar cheese.
I love
on my
that
pie.
you're like, yes, and then I would go to the cemetery with
Cemetery
pie.
with my books, and I'd read my books, and eat my pie, and it was apple pie with a slice of cheddar cheese from the apple pan.
Oh,
nice.
the apple
Oh,
pan.
the apple pan is really good.
And they put the cheddar cheese and they melted on my pie with a little scoop of vanilla. Super nice.
And we're just going to keep sliding right by that read them in a cemetery thing.
Yeah, and I would read it in a cemetery like a proper goth kid. It was great.
It's amazing.
So goth.
So goth. Gother than thou.
None more goth?
None more goth. Oh, I love that book. That's a book we're going to get into.
Yeah, there will be... The Wicked and the Divine is a comic written
get
by our collective deity, Gillen McKelvey.
I signal boosted it
Yes, you did!
in a desperate attempt to get Senpai to notice me.
There's our new show title, Comic Books and Pie. Thank
Comic
you,
books
Ann-
and pie.
Ann Blackwell.
I don't think any of my I don't think anybody in my life wants me to eat more pie right now. I'm trying really hard to pretend I'm not 40 years old at this point. So that's pie. Pie is a once a month delight now.
Well, do we?
sometimes
For cardio and pie, that will be my new show.
Yeah, cardio and comics and pie.
Pie and cardio.
Pie and cardio.
Yeah, get rid of the carbs that you just ingested immediately.
I actually learned to put the cheddar cheese on the pie from an issue of Superman.
What?
I didn't know that you put cheddar cheese on a slice of apple pie.
Honestly, that sounds crazy.
It sounds crazy. It's really good, but it was actually in an issue of Superman where he goes back to Smallville and they're doing like a thing, and he actually orders his apple pie with the cheddar cheese, and like everyone's like, you're weird, and like the guy who runs the place is like, who's just 50s diner owner, and looks like 50s diner owner. It's like, no, this is how you eat it. If you don't understand, you have to put the slice of cheese on the apple pie. What are you, dense? Come on. I'm like,
I've never even heard of this cheddar cheese and pie thing.
I found out it was a real thing, and I was like,
Can it be any pie?
Calnut is apple pie.
Has to be apple pie.
Scoop of vanilla, slice of cheddar cheese melted on top of the pie. It's magical.
All right, I have to give it a shot.
So says Clark Kent, and he is not wrong.
I would trust that dude on apple pie. I feel like...
I would hang with Clark. I love. I'm a big Superman. We'll get into that too.
If I understand our
Thank you, Reed.
time constraints today, I think we need we're on until when?
Let's find out. Does anybody in the Fortress of Solitude over there? What's our ETA before you're going to make us go be adults?
2, yeah.
It's 20 minutes on your regular times it is.
Oh, cool.
Excellent.
Yeah,
So we can go over, can't we? I can talk books all day.
Why don't you give the pitch for next week, and then we'll finish up with 15 minutes of Q&A.
Do you guys just want to go we'll give the pitch for next week where we'll actually be going to our semi-normal
this has
vague
been
format?
Fun time Ramble Fest.
Oh, yeah.
And that ain't going away, but
Yeah.
we may even have a guest next week. I don't know who yet, but we may pull a guest in maybe.
That'd be nice.
Maybe not. We'll see.
I like guests.
I like guests too. Guests are fun.
Guests
To be
are always good.
determined. Yeah.
But
Give the pitch for next week.
The pitch for next week is we are going to be talking. I don't know if anybody here is watching Legion on FX. I want to say
It is on FX?
I'm watching it on Hulu,
Incredible.
or I'm watching it on Amazon.
I'm watching it through Hulu.
I think I'm watching it on Amazon.
I'm going to see it really soon. I haven't seen it yet.
it's-
I hear it's great.
It's dumb.
It's amazing. I'm really digging the Legion TV show, and one of the things that I'm digging about it is that while it is nothing like the comic, it's everything like the character. Like, it's such a cool take on the character and what makes him interesting, and they managed to kind of throw away everything but the core of the character in this really cool way. And there's very subtle, there's some Gen X love that we'll get into.
Oh, no. Wow.
There's so much cool happening in it, and like so much like weird Pink Floyd love, and like there's like, it's great. I'm digging it, and it's the best. I think it might be the best thing ever done with the X-Men on film. I'm not kidding. At this point, it's my favorite X-Men on film at this point.
It's really, it's like surprisingly good, and it's done by the guy who did Fargo for television, Noah Hawley, and you can tell.
So for people who are digging that show who don't really know anything about Legion, I figured that next week we would talk about Legion of the X-Men, and since we're talking about Legion of the X-Men, it may not be on Hulu. He might just be.
No, it is on Hulu. I watched it on Hulu.
You might be. Are you watching it on Hulu?
That's how I've watched 2 episodes of it.
Have you been drinking?
No.
So
Maybe they only have 2 episodes. I don't know.
normally I
but-
trust you when you're drinking. Now I'm worried.
Soren says, I don't know if Legion
Without the
hair
cocktail,
is
I don't
tall
feel like you
enough.
have
Did
your
you see
power.
that poster they made where it sort of
The
represents
head?
the hair?
Yeah, where it was
Pretty
like,
cool.
the
I'm-
purple and pink and
Yeah, we have a few Legion nerds that we might call in, and so we'll see. I know we have a few X-Men nerds, but one of the things we are also going to talk about is how comic books, not just superhero comic books, but other ones also deal with mental illness and how mental
Not
illness.
always a pleasant history, but
No, but there's a lot. I mean, like there's a lot of interesting ways it's
trying
been
to do good,
dissected.
interesting stuff about it.
And there's a lot of cool stuff to talk about. We'll be talking about some of our both more and less successful characters who have had mental issues of one kind or another, and going into all of that. And so if you want to like know at least the base book that we're going to be reading is going to be called X-Men Legacy. It was the 2012 run.
Volume 2.
Volume 2. X-Men Legacy, 2012 to 2014.
Ish.
It's got all the crazy. You'll see a guy with hair that goes straight up, blue hair that's like that tall.
I remember the comic book covers for those were
very
like,
painted.
They were they were beautiful, and they always had
Was
like
it Del Mundo?
I can't remember the artist.
Let's see if I actually have one in the file.
but they always had like
super
weird
cool.
pharmaceutical sort of like in jokes and stuff like that on them.
I apologize. This is going to help some of you, and others should just block it out. But when we say X-Men Legacy Volume 2, there's a problem in comic book terminology where
Thank you.
occasionally a word gets double used to mean different things. And that applies when we say volume in reference to comics. Because one way of keeping track of it is think about like 75 years, a book happens, it gets canceled, somebody else wants to do more stories with that person. So they bring the book back, they give it a new number 1 because it's been, 3 years since there was a book with that title. And to keep track of it, collectors began referring to that next set of numbers as volume 2. So if you had 1 through 100 of something and it got canceled and somebody else wanted to make more, but they didn't want to just say issue 101 because this is a whole new beginning and it's like, it doesn't make any sense to do that, they'd say, okay, well, this is volume 2, issue 1. They would pick up from there. But unfortunately, it's also the perfect word to use when you're talking about, say, bound up collections of something like this. This is Narbonic volume 2.
But
One of my favorite
it should be
webcomics.
number 2, volume 1. Book 2, volume 1. It's so...
So what you just have to do is know whether you are talking about sequential paperbacks in a run or sequential collections in a run that help you know which order to read them in. Then you're talking about Narbonic Volume 1, Narbonic Volume 2, Narbonic Volume 3, Narbonic Volume 4.
Wait,
I promise it's not as hard as it
Book 3,
sounds.
Book 4.
We're gonna keep saying
I was about to say,
volume,
which
though,
is also why I gave the year 2012.
That's
because
why we
that'll
specify
give you
things like it helps you to narrow down when the run began. When we say it doesn't mean every issue came out that year, but that's when we're numbering from. So I do apologize. For those of you who that didn't make any sense to, it's fine, but I just want you to know when you're going to look for X-Men Legacy Volume 2, what you may land on is the second collection of the ones he's talking about.
Yeah.
So
Literally,
we'll
when I was
post a
trying to
link
look it up, I
somewhere.
found the wrong one. There will be a link going out probably under the Geek and Sundry Twitter, at the very least.
We've decided that will happen.
That's gonna happen. We'll make that happen. To at least the cover of it. Although if actually, you know what? I can just Google the cover and put it up so at least people can see it, which I will do right now.
That's a great idea.
But we do know that the year was 2012. We
do know the year was 2012.
100% double checked that before the show. And a lot of times, and I've noticed this a lot in the last few years, they'll put the year next to the volume.
It's become more common,
So-
which is helping a lot.
That's very helpful, yeah.
The problem is that both uses are right. Kind of like saying a
Yeah.
graphic novel can be a collection or it can be a standalone work. Both uses are correct. These words are fuzzy.
I use book 1, book 2, book 3 to notate which order they
We
go.
are by the way unbelievably aware that trying to get into comic books is a lot like trying to learn how to play League of Legends if you don't have any friends who play League of Legends.
Yeah.
It's just designed to make you want to cry.
We're so sorry.
We're
On behalf
working
of
on this.
comics.
This is literally an
That's-
attempt to work on that.
That is the whole purpose of this show. Is we know it's tricky. We know it can be difficult. We've mastered it, but it took years.
We're all
So-
still learning, or at least we're comfortable with our ability to navigate. Like, once you have a couple of those ins, then at least you know what you don't know. You're just like, oh, okay, I need to narrow down sort of which run it was. That helps.
Yeah.
It's just everybody has more to learn and do, but I promise it's not
I'm
as
going to
bad
show
as
a couple
it was.
covers just so people know what to look for.
Perfect.
Here's one.
Oh, it went away.
Oh, it went away. Why did it do that? Why?
Are you buying things? Are you buying things on stream?
I've already bought it. Why are you doing this? my computer always hates me. Here we go. It'll load in a second.
So yeah, this is our suggested reading for next week. If you want to be like 100% able to follow along with us on a majority of some of our conversations.
As somebody pointed out, which was really interesting, another book that we're probably going to talk about that people can read that's super easy to get a hold of is the Moon Knight runs. There's a couple Moon Knight runs that might be a lot of fun to talk about.
Yeah.
That's super small, and I apologize for that. But if you can see that ridiculous hair. If you see that ridiculous hair,
classic hair.
That's and I'll pull up one other cover really quickly. I love this one where he's getting his head shaved.
Oh.
Yeah.
I love a good head shave. There we go. Yeah, Legion getting the head shave is a great. I love, and I hope that character that she shows up too.
That would be really.
There's a whole series of characters. Moon Knight, should we? But like, there's a couple Moon Knight runs that would be. Interesting.
It was Warren Ellis, right, who just recently did it, and it was amazing.
He's done a recent run. Jeff Lemire is currently writing it. Too much a plan.
And then Bendis's LA run of Moon Knight, which is
maybe,
weird. Might not be the one to pull. I don't know.
We'll think about which Moon Knight we would want to recommend.
Yeah. So you guys, if you've
Moon
Knight's a little deep. You don't necessarily have to delve into Moon Knight right now. We will sell you on Moon Knight.
There's also a character in Doom Patrol that you love.
Crazy Jane.
So what do you have any suggestions on that? Because
Man,
I want to go read that.
I'm going to say, if you know who Grant Morrison is, and if you're ready for some like hallucinogenic, crazy books, Grant Morrison's run on Doom Patrol is amazing, but it's psychotropic. Like it's a book about people who fight there are villains in those books that have given me nightmares. There's at one point they find a dimension of key people. I think they're called the key people.
Like my relatives?
Well, they're all these like weird humans whose instead of heads they have keys, and
this is so Grant Morrison.
And they run, and there's like hordes of these key people who run around trying to open things, and then like they find people and they just start stabbing them in the with the keys, just like breaking people apart trying to open them, and like it's like nightmare fuel. That book is nightmare fuel.
So I should go read it.
It is like Friday the 13th psychotropic horror, like cosmic tentacle horror.
And that is Grant Morrison's Doom Patrol.
That's Grant Morrison's Doom Patrol.
Doom Patrol was a superhero team from the 60s who always had a reputation for weirdness, but got taken to an entirely new level in the late 80s, early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
On the DC's Vertigo line, which you've heard us mention and will be hearing more about.
Oh, yeah.
When Grant Morrison wrote them, brought back some of the characters, added new ones of his own, and went all out with the weirdness.
It was DC's attempt to kind of, and we're going to do an episode on this too, it was DC's attempt to kind of have their own X-Men, and they were supposed to be the superheroes that were too weird for like the other superheroes, were like, those guys are weird.
Controversy, some people think the X-Men were ripped off of Doom Patrol. They basically happened at the same time.
Yeah, there's a little bit of back and forth, but and it was also like weirdly, depending on how you feel about things, it might have been the first vaguely trans character in a comic book, but that's a whole other weird conversation, but it did have actually, for what it was at the time, a remarkably adult conversation about sexuality and gender, which was interesting, which was really interesting. Like, as adult as a conversation as you can have now, but except it happened way back when. Yeah. Really fascinating, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what people think of it now.
Yeah, the late 80s, early 90s, they were dealing with a lot of mature themes that hadn't really been dealt with in comics before. Some of it holds up really well. Other stuff we're like, wow, I would talk about this differently now. But it still stands as a really interesting literary work. I've just started it, so I just met Crazy Jane.
Well, you Negative, is it Negative Man who's in the... Well, that's because... Has that happened yet? Well, has like the weird... merger happened? Oh no, none of this. Or the butterflies.
Actually, yes.
The King of the King of Butterflies who pins people to boards. Oh god. Like you can't die there, and he has a butterfly collection pinned to boards, but the butterflies can't die, so they're all still twitching on the walls, and they're like, oh.
Okay, so yeah.
Hi. So normally this is where I would be on the other side of the camera telling you folks you had 10 minutes left because the show runs till 2, but Bearded Men Improv is actually not at their new time yet. They're still going to go on Thursday this week, so we don't have their show, so why not take another half an hour and chat with these fine
We're down.
people?
Bonus round!
So why don't we go till about 2:30, and that gives you a chance to answer questions or tell us more about the show or set up more stuff. And by the way, it's going great. We love you all.
Oh, thanks.
You guys having fun?
You guys having some fun? Talking comics?
They're seriously enjoying it.
I'm
leave you to
really,
it.
and I gotta say that the chat, because we're kind of checking it. You guys are making some really, really cool recommendations
Yes,
too.
listen to each other.
Like there's some nuts stuff in there, but like yeah, we're definitely over on our end of the stream. We're gonna try and keep it as like I already feel like we're like throwing so much at you guys. I kind of want to like.
I think we're excited.
you made it.
I think as the show progresses,
I'm
we'll
so
start to settle
excited
down
to
a
see
little
where
bit.
we all are in a
It's going
year.
so fast.
Yeah. I'm so nuts about where we're gonna be in a year, and that really excites me.
It's so good to be here. And folks who are the poll watchers, we're talking about getting some friends to visit us.
Oh,
on
yes.
this
Yeah.
show. Those
Yeah.
who remember a previous show that I did with Hector and Whitney here
I
on the channel.
remember I was just hanging out with Whitney last night and been like, I'll miss you, Whitney. You should
Congrats.
come talk
We all-
about
Congrats.
things.
Whitney's
Congrats
back
to
on
her.
the channel as of last night, and
She's
friggin'
working
is
for
our
DC
woman in
Comics.
DC
Yeah.
now.
That's awesome.
I gotta stop doing that.
Along with Tiffany Smith.
Yeah. And I've got a whole bunch of people I've been reaching out to pro friends of
We
mine.
should have Tiffany on the show.
Should have Tiffany
She's
on
a
the show.
giant DC fan.
Yeah, we're gonna and
I
like
met her. Jason and Ashley, I love. So
old
Already
old
playing
cosplay.
good
I
friends
used to
with
do
them.
a bunch of Batman cosplay with some friends of mine. We did Gotham Public Works, which was like one of the old. I'm gonna dole out my cosplay photos slowly.
This is so exciting.
So like we're gonna get Tara, who is like our old Harley Quinn, one of the first like big Harley Quinn cosplayers, and we're gonna drag her on. Marisha should come talk about Batgirl. She was a big Stephanie Brown
yeah,
nerd.
she's a big spoiler fan.
We know.
We are throwing out unconfirmed guests, but just take
We
it
are
from
not
us. We will
confirming
force all
anybody.
of these people to be on the show.
These are the names of people we like who we miss because we don't get to see them anymore. Yay.
Someone's saying if Saga's my favorite comic, what should I read next? If you haven't read Y the Last Man yet, go backwards in time.
Yeah, Y is great. Y
Both
is a
of
very
those
good
have
one.
been gateway comics for many, many, many people, and they're two of my favorite books.
That's a
and
great-
And
by
they're
the
both
same
they're
writer.
both the same writer. Yeah,
Yeah.
Brian K. Vaughan, BKV.
BKV, not even his power could save the ending of Lost, but man, he did a good job trying. We are
Yeah,
getting.
Why
did
the
he
Last
did
Man
he
was
do
great.
Runaways or was that somebody else?
He did.
He started it.
We're getting a
And then he
Runaways
traded
TV
books
series.
with Joss Whedon.
It's
I
gonna be
know, I'm
nuts.
so excited about the Runaways
We
TV
get
series.
to have a Runaways show.
I can't
I'm
wait.
It's
so
a real
excited.
thing in the world.
I'm so pleased.
Spoil yourself by
Get-
reading the comics.
Get to talk about Nico Minoru.
Nico Minoru.
I love
And-
her.
Good
And-
magic.
And the weird
pretty-
Arcade
pretty easy to
Island
tell.
Island book, which we will talk
Avengers
about.
Arena. I
Avengers
made a
Arena.
video about my inability to decide what I thought of Avengers Arena.
I've never
I-
been so conflicted about a book in my
Yep.
entire life. Where I'm
I
like,
never got grabbed on that one.
I-
I read like 3
Oh,
or 4
I was
issues
grabbed.
and
I was grabbed, just not anywhere I wanted to be grabbed. And but it was like, whoa, you actually found a boundary and pushed it, and I'm so impressed, but so disturbed at the same time.
who was writing
I
that?
don't know.
Oh God, now I'm blanking.
If anybody in the chat knows of a movie called Battle Royale,
They do.
you guys do. It's a Japanese really
Gert.
dark.
Friggin' awesome
Page
movie.
Runner J.
This was kind of Marvel's attempt to do Battle Royale, and it was. And my thing about Battle Royale, the movie, was like, this is a great movie, but a movie you could not tell in English. Like, this is a story that
Yeah.
if you took, it only works because the students were Japanese. If
Yeah.
the students have been American, the entire movie falls apart because of just cultural attitudes towards life and death.
It's
and
based so specifically in that. We studied it in one of my classes.
and somehow Avengers Arena did Battle Royale with American. Well, it was an international cast, but they did it. And I'm like, I cannot believe you managed to make a quote unquote Western take on Battle Royale, and I'm so horrified by it. I am deeply horrified.
It's interesting because you sort of you trade the idea of societal pressure for the individual cruelty of Arcade, which does flow pretty naturally out of his character.
I'm glad he
we're going deep.
always disturbed. Arcade was kind of okay. It's just since we're going here, so I want to do an Excalibur
Sorry,
episode
guys.
too. We're gone on our 30 seconds.
Charlie Rose is shouting out DC Bombshells. Everyone read DC Bombshells.
DC
It's
Bombshells is great, and they
amazing.
get action figures now. Boom, Toy Fair.
I've got several of the little
Statue
blind
around.
box ones. They're the cutest.
Arcade was Marvel's answer to the Joker, kind of. He was kind of there.
Ish.
They were kind of
Yeah.
making fun of the Joker and the Riddler, of like I'm going to build these elaborate death traps, and I'm kind of pageantry and dumb, and I've got women in sexy costumes who are my sidekicks, and everything I do is kind of kooky, but there's underlying everything I do is this weird violence and like sexual violence. There was always an undercurrent to the character I always found really disturbing. Like
Yeah.
even as a kid, I'm like, you're giving me a bad touch uncle vibe. that makes all of your books somehow scary. Like it's like creepy clown, like Gacy clown.
It's interesting because I never read as much of the sexualized violence into it, but it's definitely dehumanizing because it's treating people as bodies. Because his whole deal is like murder games,
murder
world.
But like the idea of not valuing human life as human life, but as this sort of expendable, tradable thing, which is deeply connected to that notion of like taking away people's personhood, which is often expressed in the form of
that's
violence.
really what that's kind of the core of his character was I am entertained by watching people. Like he was the Jerry Bruckheimer of torture porn. Was basically, I produced the most elaborate and interesting ways to kill people on camera.
But back in the day,
And
he usually didn't succeed
usually
because
failed.
comics code. And it's an open question, like, is it a good thing or a bad thing that they finally let him kind of live up to that?
The meta text of the book, and meta text by meaning like when the book is kind of commenting on the book itself by the characters actually expressing kind of a fan opinion, where the rest of the supervillains going, you're a joke.
Yeah.
And that was his whole thing. They were like, you're a joke. No one takes you seriously. You build giant pinball machines.
You call it Murder World and it's never worked.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's murder. It's a Gilligan's Island. You're dumb. You're stupid. No one respects you. You've never done anything of value other than waste money. And he kind of gets beaten up at like a villain bar and like really humiliated. And he's like, fine. And he snaps. And he kidnaps all the teen heroes and makes them murder each other live on the internet.
Yeah.
And it's the darkest and like fundamental, and like bless Marvel at least for knowing that like the ones that got away from that were fundamentally changed. Like none of those characters ever recovered.
I'm still mad about Metal.
I know.
I loved Avengers Academy.
Oh, that hurt. I mean, like it's a book that really hurt and like really.
It's tough because I'm still not sure it was a good idea.
Well, but
it was a really interesting idea. I
really
just don't know if I wanted it in my regular Marvel universe. Like maybe it's a scary Red Sun style alternate. I don't know.
And it never felt pornographic. Like I never felt like I was it felt like it knew it was so conscious that the villain was the one making it the show, and it was all these kids going, "This is not funny." At all.
That's true. The book was very aware. The characters were very aware of how sort of unacceptable the whole thing was. I just could never make up my mind of like, you still decided to tell this story, which has been a line you've not crossed for all this time.
It's like not telling someone you're taking them to see the movie Brazil. I'm like, why are you? You need to prepare someone for this. This can fuck up your life.
Yeah, I think the biggest reason like I quit reading it was like I didn't want it in my continuity, and like I don't like. I cried when Nightcrawler died, and
every character has died 3 times. By the way, it's not a spoiler. Every character ever.
But in Messiah Complex.
I like that we're going into arcade.
I think it was second Coming. Yeah, I think you're right. But like I cried.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to read Avengers Arena and be like crying every book issue. Or every other issue. I was like, no. Cannot do this.
That's a totally defensible position.
It is a rough, especially if you know those characters. I don't recommend going out to read it now. It's one of those things that once you're invested in the characters will and I say it will hurt more, but in a good way. It is smart. I was worried it wasn't going to be smart. It's a smart book. It understands what it's doing, and bless Marvel, it didn't go away. It would have been really bad if they had just done what I call the Etch-a-Sketch, which is like the characters are done, they shake the book, and everything goes back to normal. Which is normally what you do with these books because these characters are so old, is that you fundamentally put them through this big thing, but when you walk away from the book, you kind of put it back where you found it. You put all the toys back in the toy chest. You've maybe changed a couple little things, but at the end of the day, Captain America isn't really a Hydra agent. Spider-Man really isn't Dr. Octopus. Eventually, the toys get mostly put back on the shelf.
They didn't do that with this one, though.
But they were smart enough to go, no, these kids are either changed for the better or for the worse, and some of them just literally just put a gang together and went to hunt down Arcade and kill him. Like, that's what they decided to do, is like, we're going to find him and kill him for what he did to me. Like, and they became villains because their whole thing is just like, they are just now like hunting down the guy who abused them and going to put a bullet in his head.
Yeah.
And then some of them kind of doubled down on the heroics, and some of them, I mean, like a couple, like all sorts of interesting stuff. And like the other smarter villains were like, we can get to these kids now. And so like all the villains is like Zemo and all the other ones are kind of getting in there like, you're angry, we can help with that. That's what we do. And it's so interesting. Oh, God, Marvel does teens so well. I love their teenage books.
DC too, though. Teen Titans,
Teen
Young
Titans is good
Justice,
stuff.
New Teen Titans, classic 80s. There was a time where New Teen Titans and Uncanny X-Men were the two best-selling books in comics, and people were just basically beating paths to their stores to find out that they were sort of in this arms race of wonderful soap opera superhero storytelling.
Wonder Girl, Batgirl, Superboy.
So is the Rebirth Teen Titans good?
I haven't delved yet.
Yeah.
I haven't touched it yet. I couldn't tell you. I'm hoping.
There's both a Titans book and a Teen Titans book. I need to catch up on them myself.
I'm doing Superman, Justice League, Batman right now, and I'm gonna start branching out a little further. I'm doing only 3 Rebirth books a week just to sort of dip my toe back in.
Yeah.
Although there's also, if you want rad DC young adult stuff, get yourself some Gotham Academy.
Yeah.
Oh, I love Gotham Academy. I got like the first 6 of that.
It's like Harry Potter graham crackers in Batman world. It's great.
It's people going to a private school in Gotham. It goes about as well as you expect.
Yeah.
So cool.
It's
and
really
it's
good.
pretty.
That is
Who's
really
that?
good.
That artist is amazing.
They've had a couple different people on it, but they've all been excellent.
I'm early. I'm still in the early roll.
Okay,
Avengers
Eastweek
on the
says
cover.
Rebirth Teen Titans is okay. Titans is better. Probably somebody else disagrees, but I love it.
I'm
And
annoyed
we're
how
getting
much
a
I
lot
like
of shout-outs for Champions. Champions.
I'm
Okay.
genuinely annoyed how much I like that book.
I'm sorry, this may happen a lot, but I've spent so long in a store now, I gotta occasionally just be like, there was seriously a family that walked in a few weeks ago, walked through the door, and I'm bad with kid ages, so let's say 9-ish, went, "It's
Walking.
Champions Day!"
Whoa!
A phrase never uttered joyfully
Ever.
by anyone.
Ever!
This is a title they've reused from various series which were like sort of loved but never like bestsellers or superstar kind of books. Champions is a name that got reused for a current team of teen heroes at Marvel, like that actual kids and teens are loving, and it makes me so happy, and adults,
It's
obviously.
a good book. It's a good book.
It used to
I've
be
only
a-
read the first couple issues of it. But
It
is a
used
good
to be
book.
Champions was like the team. It was the team book for everyone who just the Avengers decided not to call this year. It was
Yeah.
so sad.
Well, the cool thing about this set of Champions is they're the people who were like, nah, we opt out of being Avengers. We're
Because
mad
the
at you
Avengers
guys.
were
they literally like
too
set
destructive
fire
and-
to the event. They burned the Avengers card and were like, boom.
Well, and my favorite one of those was Ms. Marvel, because she was such a fangirl and wanted to be on the Avengers so bad, and then she was the one who led the charge to leave the team.
She's
Like,
my
and I
favorite Never
love
Meet Your
that.
Heroes. Never Meet Your Heroes story so far.
God,
Like she
it's-
writes fanfic about them, and then she was like,
Kamala
"You
Khan is
guys
one
are
of the
the
best characters
worst."
in decades, and I will
They-
like die on that hill.
It's so nice to have a Spider-Man book again, is what I say about Kamala Khan.
Yes!
I'm like, this is what it must have been like to read Spider-Man in the 60s. It's
yeah.
so nice.
That and Miles Morales, I feel the same way.
I actually like the Vision Kids. Vim,
Tom King's
Vim
Vision
is-
last year.
We'll get into that too.
We're all over the place.
We're very Marvel right now.
There's a
All right,
book called Ms. Marvel. It stars Kamala Khan. It is written by G. Willow Wilson with a team of artists, originally Adrian Alfona.
That is all ages, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That is all ages.
It's,
Yeah,
it's
we were asked that in,
fantastic teenager coming of age, like getting powers, figuring out who you are, how it affects your family, how it affects your city, what you want to be, who you want to be. Brilliant.
Yeah. Tumblr girl with superpowers.
Yeah.
Keeping the neighborhood safe.
And she writes fanfic. One of my favorite.
Also Pakistani American and a Muslim.
Yeah, no, because cool, and then,
Yeah.
and like in such a beautifully New York, and Marvel is such a New York universe. She's Jersey, I know.
Yeah.
But like, they paint the city very well.
Yeah.
Like it's nuts.
East Coast City. Yeah.
East Coast, L.A. Marvel LA always sucks.
Runaways.
They got out of there so fast.
But that was the whole point. Sorry, that's maybe too deep.
No.
Part of the fun of Runaways was that LA had sort of been neglected over time, and then Runaways, basically in a giant retcon, invented an excuse for why the superhero
Why
presence on the West Coast
no one goes
was
to
different
LA.
and turned it into a beautiful story thing.
I think part of it is because visually we're a very uninteresting city. We don't have a lot of tall buildings. We don't have a lot of we're
have,
super
like-
wide and not very tall.
Yeah. We have a lot of centers, like
Yeah.
commerce centers, but
We have a
It
lot
used
of
to be
tunnels.
the case that both companies were centered in New York, and most of the writers lived either there or sprinkled around the country. So there weren't a lot of people being like, "LA's my backyard. I'm going to write it into stuff," which has changed in some interesting ways.
We could do an interest. It could be in a whole. We could all do like LA, the great superheroes of LA. That could be a whole episode of like
the West Coast Avengers.
West Coast Avengers, Wonder Man, Manhunter. There's some fun ones.
Jack Kirby retired out here.
Flat
didn't he?
Wally West for a little while.
Yeah.
West Coast City.
I've got
Was
when
on
we
the
do
other
our
coast.
Jack Kirby episode, I've got a fun story about him.
Punisher in
from
LA.
My friend Matt Kennedy,
X Factor.
who bought actual original Marvel prints from him. that he had worked on and taken from the company.
Man, I've got some Kirby art on my wall.
No,
Moon Knight was a TV producer in LA. Brian Michael Bendis did a run of Moon Knight as a TV producer, making a shitty television show about himself that no one like really knew it was really his thing, but like making a bad like 24 style action, like, and like everyone going, your show is so bad, it's great.
Man Thing, I haven't read it.
Man Thing. Oh God, are we really throwing people?
No, wait.
They're not ready for Man Thing.
R.L. Stein is writing the new run on Man Thing.
Oh man, no.
And
no fear, you burn at the touch of Man Thing.
And he's coming to Los Angeles. Like the first issue
monster.
is him coming to Los Angeles to pitch a show for himself,
For
wondering why he's never been in his own TV show.
Out of curiosity, is this the Man Thing that looks like a giant pile of kale wearing
And
a
he's got,
Groucho
like, the
Marx
weird-
mask?
the weird
like with like the
nose
big
thing?
weird
Yep.
nose and
Yep.
like the big eye? Oh
Yep.
my God.
Yep, the one who's in the Howling Commandos. Yep.
And the Thunderbolts briefly.
Yep, sure.
Because why not?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but R.L. Stein at his best.
Okay, that's a book. That
I don't know if it's out yet.
exist.
I know they pitched
No, I'm
it
in.
like last year. I don't know if it's
Generally,
shelved yet.
much like wrestling with comic books, the weirder the pitch, the better the book is probably going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the wonderful things about comics is that it's sort of this mixed thing of that, like, because it's a relatively niche industry, in some ways you have more ability to take risks.
Yeah.
So you can have something like Grant Morrison's Doom Patrol, which was sort of like, well, no one's really using these characters, and it's not very expensive to make comics relative to other kinds of media. Try it.
Well,
and then it
I
changes
feel
the
like
face
that's
of an
what
industry.
like Vision was for Tom King. He was like, look, like we just brought him back in he's in Age of Ultron. He hasn't really been used too much in the comics. Can I just play with him, please? Like, here's my pitch. So, let's go for it.
Well,
and then it was like the best book from Marvel last year.
Not that we won't take I am watching, I swear, and like we will. Deadpool, your comments keep going by. Put it back up, and maybe I'll catch it. Or I actually may have read it. Oh God, my brain is made of Swiss cheese. The cool thing about the big two right now, Marvel and DC, is because, and like normally I'd be upset that they're. Well, I mean, like there was an argument that having Marvel and DC be owned by film companies would kind of suck.
I mean, DC's been owned by Warner Brothers since the
forever,
70s.
and Marvel owned by Disney were like, are they gonna, is it now Mickey Mouse and Iron, whatever? We were all a little, trepidatious when money is involved. But the cool thing now is that comic books don't have to make money anymore. They don't have to. It's not about. A comic book doesn't have to sell anymore they'll throw money at it because what they're doing with the comic books is doing test pilots for cool movies.
Yeah.
So they're really excited by people doing weird books because if it's a hit, even if it doesn't make any money, if they're like they can tell if the book is good, and it doesn't matter if the book made any money or not. Because
this is to a certain extent true.
It is to a certain extent.
Yeah.
They're like try it because like even if it's not necessarily a financial hit, if it's a critical hit, or if you find something that we look at later and go, even though people didn't necessarily latch onto it, this is going to make a great TV show or movie. The book has paid for itself now, because then they can now turn that into content for the Supergirl show
And I think it's for that reason that like so many. Marvel fans especially were up in arms when like the X-Men looked like they were starting to maybe get pulled from Marvel canon and stuff like that, and they were being replaced with Inhumans. I don't think that was actually going on. I think maybe Perlmutter wanted to pull back on it because Fox did own it. I think maybe there's something to that.
I will. I have my theory on it is because they want to do the movie Soup right now. Mm-hmm. I think that they separated them so that the Soup doesn't have pieces they can't play with.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
And so the X-Men, they're not quite. And boy, I'm going to use the word the way it's meant to be. They're a little ghettoed at the moment. There's a neighborhood where they all live, and they don't venture out of it very often unless they really can't find any good Indian food.
I mean, like Beast is with
to a
Inhumans
certain extent true. The X-Men are actually currently mixed in on a bunch of different teams.
Yeah.
They're having a giant crossover with the Inhumans. The thing that we're all, as longtime fans, responding to is a sense of like they put out marketing materials and you wouldn't see some of the X-Men in it.
Yeah. Or the Fantastic Four.
Right. Or the Fantastic Four did actually get canceled, partly due to low sales and possibly partly also due to these ongoing studio conflicts over who owns the movie rights. Mm. It's interesting because overstating the like, I had someone come into the store last week who was sort of like, I heard they're making X-Men comics again. And I had to sort of explain, like, they haven't stopped.
Yeah.
There are 3 current ongoing X-Men books. There is a team books, and not counting, like, Old Man Logan, which is going on, which if it's
sometimes the narratives that we tell ourselves as fans can overwhelm
And-
like our sense
yeah,
of what's going
and they're
on.
like-
but it absolutely is the case that like they turned the Inhumans into the X-Men and then put them in conflict. So it's hard not to read that as a meta narrative.
No,
Yeah.
and
Sorry, I hope I'm not.
No, you're right.
Well, actuallying you.
No, you're not. You're absolutely right. And but it's also one of those things where like, I mean, like there are new X-Men characters that are cool and are happening. Like they're making New Mutants and
New Mutants.
New Mutants. And like there is a vibrancy there. It's just that they're kind of, I mean, like, and they're visible, but they are kind of staying in their corner. I guess would be like they're not getting involved in a lot of the big stuff.
It is interesting.
Which
They didn't
is,
have.
yeah, it's not bad necessarily. Yeah.
These are the sort of, and I hope we can enjoy this. Like, this is something that's fun to us. Is like, if you were in charge of these universes, how would you play this? Trying to balance all of these pieces. How much would you like? There's always these difficult questions posed by like having a 75-year universe with 1 million characters in it. How much do you lean on history? How much do you try to make sure you're welcoming to new people? And everyone's going to answer that question differently over and over and over again. And that's part of what makes it fun. But it's why we're arguing about like.
Well, but that's what makes it a conversation because all of us have different opinions on it. You know, like. Yeah, like I feel like going back to what you were saying. Like I really do feel like Marvel was like, well, maybe we should pull back on the X-Men and the Fantastic Four. But I don't think they were ever like, we're gonna cancel it all together. I mean, because like screw Fox.
And like, we're gonna sit down and once we're all prepared, have the conversation about what happened with the Fantastic Four and Doctor Doom and the complete reboot of the Marvel Universe. And like,
you mean the Secret Wars?
The 10-year-long slow destruction of the universe that just of intricate part like a mousetrap machine that ran for like 8 years.
From Hickman, you mean?
From like where you're just watching this machine roll and you're like, what are you?
So remember how earlier in our conversation we mentioned that my brand is sillier and more complicated? That is why Hickman is to this day like one of my top 5, like because
Jonathan
he
Hickman's
is
Fantastic Four is
incredibly like so complicated and so like
he's like, what issue am I going to write 10 years from now? I'm going to write towards that. Like that's how I think.
Yeah.
So,
like seeing like his Secret Wars, his like Avengers and New Avengers, how they were both connected, and as a giant Doctor Strange fan, I was initially thrown off by him. I was like,
I love what he did with.
I was like, he doesn't know how to write Doctor Strange. Like
it was a different Doc.
But he eventually like showed, oh no, I was just holding back.
Yeah,
I get Doctor Strange better than anyone in the last 10 years. And I was like, yes!
So
he won you over.
Absolutely he won me over.
Not to delve too deep into this story because we're probably gonna have a whole Secret Wars. Secret War to Secret War. From Secret War 2
to 85?
All the Secret
Guys,
Wars.
I can admit that sometimes comics are really stupid. There are 2 stories with the same name. They were told...
3.
Well, Secret Wars 2 has a different name, at least.
And,
well, it's called Secret Wars 2.
And
it's
there
not
was
just
also...
called Secret Wars.
Secret War.
Secret War is a different...
Fury,
they're all different books that happen in different decades. I'm so sorry. As a retailer, I'm so sorry
we're gonna make code names for them.
We all think we're being clever because we all know what we mean when we say Secret Wars, but you didn't think through that I have to tell people where to find it on a bookshelf for all the rest of time.
No,
anyway,
it's the Marvel version of the word Smurf. Did you read Smurf? That Smurf was so Smurf. The new Smurf is much better than Smurf 2.
Good.
Yeah, Marvel loves their war titles.
Live Free or Die Smurf.
Civil War, Secret War, Infinity War,
and
War of the Kings.
DC has Crisis.
Yeah.
And Infinite.
Yeah.
Infinite Crisis of
Crisis
52 Infinite Crisis of Earth.
Yeah.
Of Secret War.
Ebert says the Crisis on Infinite Secret Wars.
It is a running gag, but Hickman did a thing. It's basically this big super crossover of every Marvel character ever that took like 10 years to tell, multiple books, probably 150 issues, like a stupid number of issues. And Hickman is one of those writers. It's like watching Lost, where you're like, there's so many parts and this better pay off. You're getting weird, man. This better pay off. Oh my god, it's been 8 years. This better pay off. And then you're like, oh my god, it did.
Oh my god, it totally paid
Jonathan
off.
Hickman.
It totally paid off.
Yeah, it's like Lost with a good ending. It's great.
Yeah,
that's
totally
so
paid
much
off.
Lost shade with you.
Burn.
Someday I'm gonna watch this.
They
show
hurt me, man. That's hours of my life. I know I'm gonna.
What, Lost or Secret Wars?
Lost. Secret Wars. I've reread 3 times now.
Here's the thing. Secret Wars was amazing. When we get into that episode, we'll have a conversation about Sue. Because Jonathan Hickman has written my absolute favorite and least favorite Susan Storm stories.
Man.
Really?
I'm going to put this there. It's tough to choose a least favorite Sue Storm story because she's been so poorly treated. She's
Well, that's
probably
true.
the most
Okay,
maligned.
There's
Some
worse ones
bad.
that I haven't read that I just
I'm
like.
going to pull out some trash.
Yeah, but it's not. It's only my least favorite because I had already read him doing my favorite with her. Anyway,
Yeah.
Secret Wars is read, especially as a Reed Richards and Dr. Doom story. Unbelievable. On other levels, this is the thing with comics. Everything has to try to do a million jobs at all times, and they don't always succeed at all of them. So on some other levels, it's less successful. But on that basic level of, is this an amazing story about those two dudes told incredibly over, a decade? Yeah.
I love
good.
that, Jonathan Hickman heard, there's the quote that's, I think it's attributed to Stan Lee, maybe incorrectly, but the quote of, every comic book is someone's first.
Yes.
And I love that Hickman was like, yeah, screw that.
This was the classic thing.
Hickman was really like, no, I'm not.
For decades, the idea was they didn't expect you to go track down other issues. They expected every comic to be someone's first. It leads to some things that people now make fun of, like classic Claremont dialogue. Every issue of X-Men, people will explain who they are and what their powers do, which can get really weird when you're reading.
When
through
you've already read, I've read 70 issues of this. I know what Storm can do.
Easy to make fun of, but it's that, again, it's a balance. Do you want every issue to be someone's first, which I love and value as a longtime comic book thing, or do you want this ability to craft these super intricate epics?
And we've kind of found a balance of every 12 issues is someone's first.
Well, you know what Hickman, what I noticed in what Hickman started doing in his Avengers and New Avengers runs, is he would pull the top 7 or 8 important panels from the last issue, or not even the last issue, just
whatever's necessary
for you to understand, and he'd be like, it was, you know what it felt like? It felt like
opinion, I hated
previously.
What's that?
Controversial opinion, I hated those.
Oh man, I loved them because I felt like it was last time on Avengers,
which I kind of dug. And
I thought that was a smart way to wrap it up without saying the other person that I love who did, is Peter David writing for X Factor would always write last time this guy did this and this guy and this was hilarious. By the way, my daughter did this. I was like, oh, I'm getting a little check-in with Peter David. But
I really dug the big charts of character. They would do these big family tree charts, and they would highlight the characters that are going to show up in the book.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then there would be faded images of the other characters who are involved but not showing up right now. And little lines that would tell you who they're talking to or who they're with. I kind of did that.
I feel like that was more of an editorial. I feel like
it made it easier.
They better just go back and read them and catch up. I don't care. I'm writing my story. I love that about him so much.
I mean, on the panels thing actually was a really, really cool idea. I ended up disliking some of them because I felt they took things out of context and created, in some ways, a more disjointed reading experience for people.
Sure.
But it was a really interesting idea.
But there were times I was reading every single one. It was I wouldn't get more than maybe a month behind, so I might have to catch up on 2. But there would be times I'd be like, oh my god, I totally forgot that. Why did I? Oh, I forgot that because that was last year. That was a full year ago. He's pulling out one panel from a year ago. Okay, well now this is important to read. So, Secret Wars, go read it. Yay!
Someone asked our opinion on what they said. I don't even know how you put it, but you it was the female Iron Man, which I want to point out. Actually, she has her
Williams?
own Riri, who's actually it's Iron Heart, which I think is a.
We know what you meant.
Great. We know what you meant.
It's a great name.
Which is because I know they were Iron Maiden, which is always that's kind of weird.
It's cool in a meta way, but it's really unfortunate
unfortunate.
in what the word maiden means. Let's not think that through. That's just strange.
Iron Maid, which is actually a character from the Tick, I think, or someone was Iron Maid, or there was a weird. There was American Maid.
Yeah.
The world's most patriotic domestic. I love American Maid.
I just love the Tick.
We'll
Tick.
go there too.
Speaking of people who cross over between TV and other worlds, there were
Ticks now.
multiple
there's
TV
2.
incarnations of
Patrick
the Tick, and Ben
Warburton
Edlund, who created the Tick, wrote on Angel and a bunch of other
Firefly.
wonderful TV shows.
He has also he's I think the only other person who's worked on Venture Brothers outside of Jackson Public.
Really?
And,
That
Dark
makes
Hammer.
so much
Oh yeah,
sense.
he wrote the Scooby Doo episode with the serial killer Scooby Doo. We're getting too meta. Break the meta because we're getting. I see too many comic book readers in chat actually making comments, which means that we're getting too meta.
Yeah,
We are not member berries. We are not member berries.
Member.
No.
Member
Secret War.
Member Secret War.
Tick. Okay, I know.
Totally member.
We're gonna fight the member berry.
Fight the member berries.
member
Nice.
berries.
Hashtag fight the member berries.
Yeah, Riri's a really... Actually, I've got a Riri Williams, who's the Ironheart. There's 2 Iron Men. There's Dr. Doom is currently Iron Man.
Yep.
And
That's a thing that's happening.
it's amazing. And Riri Williams is Ironheart, and I dug the most recent issue. Like I was...
I'm not caught up. I've read the first couple, but I'm not caught up.
It was fun. I'm like, okay. It was like reading Ultimate Spider-Man back in the day. We're like, you're going somewhere, you're going there slow. All right. And then like how she, like the most recent issue, like I get that it was like the first time like Janeway in Star Trek yelled at an alien, get off my ship. I'm like, oh, we're that captain. Like Riri did the like, this is how I'm solving stuff. Whoa.
Yay!
Yeah, I dig it.
Eddie Brock from Twitter asked.
Do we have an Eddie Brock
Eddie
on Twitter?
Brock.
He did.
Love the deep cut.
He said, where did I get the shirt? I mentioned it earlier, but I will say again,
Bring it again.
I bought it at a place called Box Lunch. I know that they have an online store, and they have a few other options. I think you may also be able to get it at Hot Topic now. I don't know, but I know I bought mine at Box Lunch, and they give a portion of their proceeds to feed like starving children. So the other question he asked was, would we be covering Image Comics? Yes, we will. We'll be covering.
Yeah.
We'll be covering everything.
They're turning 25 this year. They have a really interesting history, and they have currently like the most exciting slate of comics.
They're like more of a creator. They're not like a creator. Are they creator owned? Like if you
They have
create
different
complicated.
models. There's all different
have-
versions. But the central idea is creator owned.
There's again, I say this, and I have a friend who makes comic book documentaries. There's a great documentary about the birth of Image Comics and how it happened, and it's a fascinating story that makes no sense. It's great.
Great.
So
Thank you, Sax.
there's a great Image comic documentary if you're in the mood that is either you can either find it online or it used to be on Netflix. I don't know if it's still on Netflix, but it's really fascinating.
I want to watch it though.
What happened there?
And I have to say, it's interesting. I know, like, it's important to me to stay true to the principle that, like, everything is someone's jam. Like, early Image is not so much my jam.
No.
Which makes it really interesting because I was very surprised when I arrived at a point where I was like, Image is amazing.
Image,
And it's because, 25 years is a long time. And they've done a large different range of things with different styles and different creators, and they've opened the door to a lot of things. And the success of some really oddball, unexpected stuff like, say, The Walking Dead, which was somebody's like, I bet I can make a go of a black and white zombie comic. And the rest of comics was like, good luck with that.
Yeah, good luck with that. But Image was like, yeah, we'll give it a shot.
It very much is a story of like that kind of snot-nosed 13-year-old kid you knew in junior high who was kind of obnoxious, but like very like, and he was kind of a jerk. And then you find it, you go back 10 years later, he's 25, and you're like, wow, you got your shit together, dude. You cleaned up good.
Really cool. We should be best friends.
We totally have to hang now. You're like, God, you spent a year in India, really? You're like, it's like that guy.
But the truth
Weren't
is,
you just high all the time? Yeah.
there are tons of people for whom that 90s Image stuff was like the most exciting thing going. I've actually heard Grant Morrison speak lovingly about a lot of that stuff.
There's a
because
few.
for him it felt like he compared it to the Ramones, where he was just like, some of those artists, they couldn't play their instruments, but there was just this energy. And it was
Max.
just like, all right.
The Max.
They're just announced
Savage Dragon.
a Sam and Keith series that
Sam
Kevin
and Keith?
Smith is going to do. They're going to, like, there's like a TV thing I've heard. I don't know if that's...
I was buying them
maybe
all.
it was a wild rumor.
I never got
them all.
into Image 90s, mostly because like I just couldn't afford to have it. I was like, look, I've got my Marvel books that I have to do. Like I can't afford to get into a whole other thing.
I'm spending so much money on Pogs. How am I going to get all of these?
Yeah,
Image
you know
books?
me and Pogs.
Wow. Okay, that's the
I hope
deepest
this
cut.
is true.
That is the deepest
What's
cut.
that?
This I've got it up. Star Pilot 6 is what you just saw, right?
What? No. What'd you see?
I thought you were saying this Kirkman story, which I have not heard before, but I really hope is true.
God, I hope that's true. I've
Even
never
with
heard that.
Image, according to Star Pilot 6, Kirkman had to trick them by saying the zombies was just a setup for an alien invasion story. Once it was going and successful, he admitted that there were no aliens, just zombies, and the people at Image were like, oh, thank goodness.
God, I hope that's true. 'cause that's
man, I
awesome.
hope that's true. That would be awesome.
Yeah, amazing.
But there's like some really crazy deep cut and the things that the positive effect Image Comics had on the industry, and like it is its own episode. We're going to do an Image episode. It's that deep.
Yeah.
God, we could do like 3.
Look at the...
It's so good.
We do need more Dark Horse representing, but look at the
Oh, yeah.
username of the person telling us. Mogo, don't socialize.
Slow clap.
Good
Slow
reference.
clap for the chat.
Okay, we're sorry. We're so excited to hang out with all of you.
Yeah.
I love that Jodie Hauser is in chat right now. She is a friend of mine and probably all of ours. Who's an amazingly talented comic book writer. She's on Vast with me. We RPG together a lot. But she also writes.
I've only delved recently. So.
But she writes Faith, the upcoming Star Wars Rogue One adaptation. I've been watching her take over the industry for the last couple of years, and it's been delightful.
Oh yeah, the Star Wars books got good. What world are we living in? It's nuts.
Erica Ishii just
resubbed. Erica Ishii just resubbed.
Oh my gosh!
What? Wow, the weirdest crossover ever.
Happy to be part of one of the best communities in the world, and Erica is one of the best parts of that community.
Yeah, we just met at the event because we got all comic booky at the Alpha event on Monday.
I love Erica.
Erica's the best.
We have a list, kids. We know, and it's gonna be a little. I don't want to say too long, but we're gonna start getting pros in to talk about their stuff, which I'm really excited about.
Hopefully at some point, yeah.
I don't want to quite turn it into inside the comic book studio or anything, but
yeah, we do.
That's fun too.
Inside the comic book studio,
Yeah.
every now and then.
Every show.
Every
I'm
now and
not
then.
saying every show.
I could talk about lettering all day. It's so dumb.
So we're sorry we didn't get to more questions today. We're very excited, and we will practice our balance of us babbling and questions. And also, sorry, we get real excited.
we do.
Why are you
Because I
apologizing?
talked over you like a lot.
No, you were. I felt the flow. I felt the flow was very, very, very solid. I'm very pleased with the flow. Everybody was, I thought, pretty good about bouncing, and I think we need like a little beanbag of some kind, so that if we have like a bring us back down. The hammer's too big. I want something I can
Hammer down.
like I'm gonna break something, but like we'll get like a stuffed animal or something that we can do to use to be like, okay, let's explain what we're talking about because we're starting to like member berry way too hard.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna make that a
good
thing.
idea.
I'm gonna
That
not.
nerd wants the nitty gritty side of the comic book industry, and I agree.
The nitty gritty.
Yeah, like the nitty gritty, dirty, rough and tumble behind the scenes, like.
Real Dr. Lady says no balance.
It ain't all colorizing and printing, man.
Can I?
It's hard.
Man,
Don't-
the actual, that's a thing though. In the 80s, like the advent of more sophisticated coloring techniques, it was a thing that weirdly, like Frank Miller fought so hard for like better print quality on, I think, Ronin when they were working on that. Like they were the invention of these prestige format comics. It was I was looking back at old letters columns and like wars raged over this stuff. Anyway, comics.
No, it's a yeah.
Thank you all so much for watching.
Yeah, are we? Let's. I guess we're gonna wrap this up.
So let's tell them again one more time what we're doing next week, in case they're just now coming on.
Next week is going to be Legion, because we're loving the show. Legion from the X-Men. We're going to be talking about how mental health is depicted in comics, everything from superheroes to non-superhero books. Probably a little bit of Moon Knight. Probably a little bit of Crazy Jane from the Doom Patrol.
But certainly Legion, the 2012 X-Men Legacy Volume 2.
Certainly Legion 2012 X-Men Legacy if you want to pick up and catch up, but it will not be necessary. So, starting on my left, who are you? Where can they find you?
Matt Key. You can find me on Twitter at the Matt Key. I have an Instagram, but I can't remember what it's called because I never use it. I'll fix that. I'll
Find
fix
Matt
that.
Key's Instagram.
And
And then
that's your
tweet it at him
challenge.
so he'll know what it is.
Yeah, thank you.
and what comic book store should people go to?
Well, I mean, if you live on the east side, like over where I live in Pasadena,
one. Yeah.
Collector's Paradise is the one that I love to go to. You can also see me on Screen Junkies News in the mornings from time to time, and you can catch me on my Marvel show on Tuesdays.
Boom.
Marvel Movie Talk. Marvel Movie News. I just forgot it for a second.
Mary Marvel
I was
Movie
like,
News.
I don't think that's what your show's called.
I am the very model of a Mary Marvel movie.
Yeah.
I am the very model of a Mary Marvel movie man,
Wow!
That's amazing.
and
that's
that's as far as I can go.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm done.
It's as far as
So
you need to go.
tired.
Information's vegetable, animal, and
And
Omega
X-Men.
Man? I
And
don't
Omega
know.
Man. Yeah, pretty good. Oh, God, I'm sorry.
Movie Man, Groovy Man.
We made.
All right, where can we find you?
Okay,
Right
yep,
this.
I'm Amy Dallen. You can find me at Enthusiamy, pretty much everywhere. I am here like a lot. I love. Come by the comic book store House of Secrets in Burbank, California.
Great story.
Who are currently covering for me while I'm here. I'm so sorry to my wonderful coworkers. You guys are the best.
Yeah. And I'm Taliesin Jaffe. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Executive Goth, like Weirdo Goth, Executive Goth.
I was wondering if that's what it
Oh,
was.
it's totally an Eddie Izzard thing. I travel the world and I'm spooky. and
Running, jumping, climbing trees.
wearing paisley somehow, making it work. And if you are ever in LA, you should check out the Golden Apple Comic Store. Or if you're in Vegas, stop by Torpedo Comics and tell Steve Houston that he's the man. Get him to show you his tattoo. It's cool. Welcome to the Wednesday Club. We'll see you soon. And remember, the mark of a true adult is the moment you stop pretending to be a grown-up. Have fun.
That's amazing.
It's a good quote.
Thanks for watching.
Night, kids.